Don't push me.
Oh, God.
And
I can't believe I'm listening to Muse.
that's the rest of my day.
Finally got him.
Dun, dun, dun,
All right, turning it on now.
dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun,
are we
dun,
stopping
dun.
recording? Have you guys
Yeah,
stopped
I'm
recording?
gonna stop now.
Alright, stopping recording.
Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Mythos Busters, where this morning I am the Frauline of Camhub, also known as Sean. Joining me on this glorious morning are my compadres. First, Scott. Hi, Scott. I never introduced you first.
Well,
Figured I
thank
should
you.
do that today.
That was unexpected. Now I'm
I
all
know,
thrown
right?
off.
Yeah, to shut the magic window a little bit too early.
Are we all just naming ourselves in Keyforge decks now?
I think that's appropriate for today's episode. What is
All right.
what is your Keyforge
Well, I know what
deck
Nick's
name
is.
of choice?
Oh.
I'll stick with the boy who headbutts heaven.
Well, Sean already took mine, so yeah, I gotta come up with something else.
Oh, come on. There's that other one.
Well, yeah, but I want a silly one.
Does that mean
Nick
Ian
is-
is the emperor?
All right. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Hi.
What's your deck name of choice?
I'm good. I don't know if it's my favorite, but the one I remember offhand is He Who Anticipates Booze. That was a good one.
What's the one about he who like gladly cooperates with the enemy or something like
Oh,
that?
yeah.
The creature that the creature that helps the opponent.
Yes. Can you imagine sitting down at a tournament and your opponent throws that on the table? God bless Keyforge. It's been so fun in so many unexpected ways.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly with the weird names, though. Nick, you got one yet?
Yes, I do. So I haven't bought a Keyforge deck, so I'm just pulling this one from Google. But I will be Wang the Suddenly Bruised.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, despite what you may think, this episode is not actually about Keyforge. This is about Arkham Horror, the card game. So we got a fun episode for you today. We're going to catch up with the hosts a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of community highlighting, and then we're going to dive deep on Heart of the Elders and City of Archives. And then, of course, round it out with a little bit of technical time. So, boys, what y'all been playing?
Keyforge. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna jump in first because I'm first this time apparently.
Yeah.
I did
Just
something.
rubbing it in our faces.
I did something for the first time ever in this game that has been possible since the core set, but I've never actually done it.
Played Daisy?
My campaign ended in The Gathering.
What?
How?
Well, it turns out R3 is you get torn apart by ghouls.
Oh, yeah, it's if you don't make it out of the
yeah.
house, right?
Yeah, we didn't. It was actually it was Return to the Gathering, so there's that. But I don't think I'd ever actually read that ending.
I have never read it either.
Yeah,
I know we all credited Where Doom Awaits for being like a mid-campaign knockout, but
we all forgot you could die in the first scenario they ever printed.
In the intro scenario to the game.
Why didn't anybody call us out?
Welcome to the game. Go fuck yourself.
well, I think that means we can reasonably surmise that very few people have actually died in The Gathering.
Yeah. So congratulations, Scott.
Thanks.
Or if they do, they don't listen to our podcast. So by the transitive property, we can also assume that anyone who listens to our podcast there's like a minimum level of skill because they listen to our podcast.
well,
Congratulations, Scott.
you know, it's quite ironic that you say that because I actually was playing the Kelvin deck that Nick and I built.
Oh.
Wait, I built it?
Was it Ian?
No,
Ian.
I think Was it the one I? Because you and I had a workshop up with Calvin when I started my Calvin campaign that died.
Is it the one you built on the show?
Yes.
Then it's you and
Oh,
me.
okay. Then it's Ian.
Yes.
Okay. So anyways, I was playing that deck. My buddy Spoon on the Discord was playing Yorick, and BD Flory was playing, oh goodness, what's his name? Old Man Wizard. Looks at the top card of his deck.
Gandalf the Yellow?
Yep, Gandalf the Yellow. Thank you. And yeah, we just got horribly boned and died. And it was a hilarious tragedy.
One might say you were suddenly bruised.
And you were Bone Riders, too.
Yep. Oh boy, were we. So that was my most recent escapade. So
That's, well, you can cross that achievement off the old list on
Is
your
it
way to
only-
platinum.
is it an achievement?
It's you can check the checkbox at least.
Yeah.
I feel like my experiences have been similar to Scott in that, in addition, mostly I've just been catching up my campaigns, but I've also been playing a couple of really bad decks lately. And the first was trying to play Calvin solo through Denwich, because I was like, I'm not going to do the TFA thing like the other guys. And he did really well in extracurricular activity, and both House Always Wins and Miskatonic Museum have been a bit of a nightmare. Although I think some of it has been some bad luck here and there with encounter draws, but yeah.
This is true solo, you said?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Running like a Dark Horse Calvin build, essentially, so nothing too out of the box, but yeah, Dunwich can still do some things. And then I had the bright idea, just to try a crazy idea, to do a all red Agnes, so all survivor cards. And
It's not that crazy.
yeah, it's not that crazy, but
It's
she was
probably her better solo build.
she was
if I'm
still
being
really
honest.
missing some of the key. I think the deck would be good if you remove the all red restriction to the point of like adding in at least some of the key purple cards, like Forbidden Knowledge would be.
Wait,
really
you
nice.
weren't running Forbidden Knowledge and Agnes?
Yeah, all red, completely red. Not a
Sean's
single.
like, wait a minute, you mean all red?
Yeah, not a
But yeah,
single
see,
concession.
I heard all red, but I didn't think that possibly that could mean what it actually said.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't the worst deck I've ever played, but it was pretty bad without the those few key crucial purple cards.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experiment.
It's tough to run a gator with 5 willpower and not utilize it, because that means that they generally don't have much by way of other stats.
Yeah. Although I was one turn away of winning Curtain Call with her solo, so that's actually not too bad.
Damn!
Yeah.
Newspaper, I assume?
Yeah, definitely newspaper. What else was our running? Flashlight, of course. So she was relying on those heavily. And
What was your ally? Peter?
who did I have as my ally?
Not Madame
I
Larange.
remember now.
Aquina?
I should have actually pulled up the deck list for this. I could discuss it intelligently. Let me do that now. Do.
Surprise, I have the most questions about your Agnes build.
Yeah. Where's the hold music?
Alright, so...
Oh, here it is. All red Agnes. I found it. Okay. So the ally is... Oh, it is Madame Labranche, because I was doing Dark Horse, all red Agnes.
Madame Lavranche, I like it.
Yep. And, yeah. She was actually able to find clues pretty well. A little bit of luck here. I was running Live and Learn, too, so she could try it again with +2. Which helped as well.
Yeah, with Live and Learn and wigging it, like, you can get some pretty good clue acquisition off of survivors.
And I actually ran Rise to the occasion because both her base intellect and base combat are 2. So in Carcosa, a lot of those shrouds are 4. So it actually helps for that. But not a great
Interesting
build.
thought experiment. Now I notice that you've been using a lot of past tense verbs. Is this campaign still going?
Well, yeah, I might give it a run of another couple scenarios, but I'm also like, a deck really needs to grab me for me to commit to a whole campaign, so we'll see.
That's interesting. When I start a campaign, I say like 85% of the time I see it through. How many times do you guys start a campaign and you only get like 2 or 3 scenarios in?
Oh, about 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Normally I get like 2 scenarios in and I'm like, fuck this.
I'd say about 50% of the time for me. And like, I think, but those 50% are like, I'm going to try something like an all red Agnes deck, or, you know, something off beat, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes I'm like, this is like such a failure. It's not even fun.
See, and when I do crazy deck builds like that, I build for standalone, because I'm like, what does this deck look like with all of its tools, and then how realistic is it to get there? You know what I mean? So like when I did Min with no assets, I built a 29 experience deck or whatever, and it was a lot of fun, but there's no way in hell I'd start a campaign with Min expecting to replace all of her assets. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's generally how I run too. Oh, sorry, what? Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of standalone, Castration Gym is now in full effect with the last pack, with Seal of the Seventh Side.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, let me pull an Ian and pull up my deck list.
And again, I have probing questions on the crazy mystic builds here.
All right, let me just grab. I wasn't sure about. I have a castration gym and a vasectomy gym, and vasectomy is 19 XP and castration is 39 XP.
Please explain in gory detail the difference between the two builds.
Well, one is like, so the 39 XP one runs 2 Book of Shadows, which I never thought I'd run in a deck. 2 Chthonian Stone, like it has protective incantation. It's got Dr. Ellie Horowitz. It's got Counterspell, Premonition, Wards, the Seal of the Seven Signs. So basically, if you get all set up, you hold a Book of Shadows in one hand, a stone in the other hand, and then you can have 2 protective incantations and the Seal of the Seven Sign, and then get Dr. Ellie to grab the other stone, and you can lock down 5 tokens from the bag. And
isn't the stone unique?
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Never mind.
Nah,
you can
4
lock
tokens.
down 4 things.
But as you've described this gym kind of sets up and camps, right? This is like Doctor Strange off in the corner doing weird mysticky things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't do anything besides allow the other players to just run away with the game.
That's a good thing to do, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Ellie's still good in there to grab trumpet. That's fine.
Exactly. She'll grab the trumpet or the stone.
I mean, if you want to reduce your efficiency on the bag, then yeah, take the trumpet. Right?
Well,
Go
we're just
all
saying
in
you have
on
the
that
option.
bag, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it runs like my splashes are 2 Ellies, 2 Eurekas, and a Preposterous Sketches. Like it's just, and I run 2 backpacks. It's just like find everything. So it has 2 Arcane Initiates as well. Calling in Favors, like just find your pieces as quick as you can, lock down that bag, and let your friends do all the work.
And when we were talking about this yesterday, I have to say I am surprised that we haven't gotten a mechanic like the Seal of the Seventh Sign.
Seal of the Seventh Sign, yeah.
Seal of the...
Seal, the Seventh, the Silence, the Seal, and
Sector.
whatever that card is. The Dormammu I've come to bargain, peeking through the veil. I'm surprised we haven't gotten that mechanic for a spell yet, where instead of charges as you use it, it's like a spell's half-life. I think that's really cool, and it's also the first good argument I've seen for Book of Shadows.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, once you get the Seal of Seven Sign out, you can use Book of Shadows to keep charges on it, right? Like,
yep. Mm-hmm.
So you can put down Seal of the Seven Sign on your first turn, and Book of Shadows can keep it pretty well protected. So.
Was anyone else surprised to see something seal the tentacle? Like, that totally caught me off guard, because I thought that was going to be, like, verboten, that there's no way.
That was the sacred thing.
That that token would never be sealed.
I mean, it's not nothing. You got to have someone who can take level 5 Mystic cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at first glance it seems balanced. Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely not a. Well, except for this gym build, if it gets Book of Shadows out, it's not a permanent thing. And even in like high count multiplayer, like your munchkins running around doing tests are gonna pull bad stuff tokens. So even with the book, it's probably gonna go away eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, doesn't Akachi have some stuff to keep it in play, like her Elder Sign? Wouldn't that add charges to it too? So like not only Jim, but
yeah,
Akachi could also abuse
there's
it
probably,
as well.
There's
Now that
probably
I'm
a
running
really
an
solid
Akachi deck, I think I'm gonna have my eye on that card.
Yeah, definitely. So for my part, the campaign that I've been starting up, this is my first legit campaign, guys, for TFA. And I say that because I started it right before the final scenario came out, so there will be no, like, disassembling and redoing the decks and doing my little house rule cheaty thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm running a 6-seed, well, not a full 6-seed by 2, but basically it's Scavenging Wendy, and just kind of a all-around, well, as all-around as Zoe can get, but it's a Zoe deck with, Scene of the Crime and Drawn to the Flame. So they're both a little bit well-rounded, but still kind of, they're both flexes, basically, is how it rocks. But this campaign has been really fun. I will say, Forgotten Age, I'm warming to it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have my moments where I'm like, oh, God, Forgotten Age, why are you you? But for the most part, I'm learning how to deal with. I got 3 on Boundary Beyond, and I felt like I not necessarily was in control, but I kind of knew what I was doing more than I have ever felt like I have. And then after Threads, I went and did side quests. I did the Guardians of the Abyss scenarios. So my Zoe deck has the Burks. Jesse and
James.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Prepare for trouble.
Oh, that's Team Rocket.
I thought that's what you were going for.
Nope.
Well, I'm definitely gonna be. They're Team Rocket to me.
They're now. Team Rocket now. Yep.
Okay. So anyway, I got Team Rocket for Zoe, and in Zoe, with her cross out, that is an amazing little combo. So I don't know if everyone, this is the Gen Con scenario, so I'm sure a lot of people don't have access to this ally. So it's a 4-cost ally, 4 health, 2 sanity, and as an action you choose an enemy in a connected location, you move to that location, engage that enemy, and deal it a damage. And when you've got the cross out too, you can deal it a second damage. And then you can I've used this to grab the aloof Guardians off of a location without spending an action. I've used it to just go shoulder butt. Yeah, let's go with that. Just bury my shoulder in. That's where the cut comes from, though, right? Like a butt. Anyway. So, and in the second scenario of those side quests, I got Wendy, I think I'm ready to say it's probably my favorite card that Matt has ever designed. Oh. I think I'm ready for that. It is wacky enough and cool enough that it's that cool, but it's the
Guidance?
Yes, Guidance.
Book of Shadows. Knife.
Blackjack.
Knuckle Dusters.
We can do one more.
Oh, make it a good one. Stray Cat.
Yes. Skids. Okay, we'll take it.
That's the best I had. Skids. Damn it, that one was better.
You son of a bitch.
But in fact, it is the summoned Night Gaunt from the Knight's Usurper, and I remember sleeving that scenario and looking at this card and just going, my God. It's so cool. You're summoning Night Gaunts. It uses 3 whistles, guys.
I would say, are you going to be contrabanding your whistles in Wendy? Wendy's contraband whistles.
I thought that was specifically ammo or supplies.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
I was thinking it was just like a...
Damn it, I was about to adaptable it in. But anyway, It's kind of reinvigorated my love for side questing a little bit. This is the first time I've done it in a really long time, just because most of the time I'm trying to pound through these campaigns to kind of learn things or try new builds, whatever it happens to be. But it was a fun little side quest, and I will say the issues I had with kind of the bag and the balance of it, in standalone, that just goes away when you play it with a campaign bag. Sure. So I had a blasty blast with that. So when Guardians of the Abyss comes out, highly recommended.
Well, it's like playing the standalone bags is essentially like playing hard mode a lot of times with the way it's constructed, or even worse than that. So yeah. Oh, one last thing I should mention is that I played the final scenario of TFA last night twice, and so I'll say, yeah, I've warmed to TFA as well. I think it a lot hinged for me on how it was going to end, and it's hard to say right now, but I think it might end up being my favorite of the ending scenarios of a campaign, at least in terms of story and like the different paths you can take. But I need to play it some more. But that's my initial hot take.
I'm excited, because I think I've said it a few times. No one would be more happy to turn around and end up loving Forgotten Age at the end of the day. So
loving is a strong word, but
yeah, I'm a lot more positive on it as a whole. I haven't played the last scenario yet, but I did. For my recent play stories, I've done 2 different campaigns now, which is...
You finally played Archives!
It's the first time I've ever done 2 campaigns, like, one right after the other. Like, finish one and be like, I'm gonna do it again. And it was because I did solo Calvin, because I've always been like, I think Calvin's a solo investigator. Like, he's too flip-floppy back and forth. Like, you never know what his strength is gonna be going into a scenario. I don't think he's a team guy. So I'm like, I'm gonna do solo Calvin through TFA. And it started off downhill on Untamed Wilds, and it never got its footing. It just tumbled and tumbled and snowballed until I got to Heart of the Elders, and I was literally caught in an infinite loop. I couldn't make any progress. I had to keep restarting the scenario. There was nothing was being gained, so I just scrapped that campaign. I was like,
my God, that sounds exactly like my Calvin campaign, except that I had Safina off in the corner actually doing things and kind of throwing Calvin the side eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still like Calvin. I still think he's a lot of fun, but now I've changed my tune to say that I think he's a standalone investigator. I don't think he's really made for campaign play, but standalone Calvin is a lot of fun when you're building a 29 experience deck-ish. Scott played one of my standalone Calvin decks, and I think he enjoyed it for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, the last campaign I played with Calvin ended pretty quickly, so...
I'll expect all the hate mail to be flooding in from the cult of Calvin now.
He is still fun, but I was so upset, because I wanted him to succeed and I wanted that deck to really shine, and I think it ended with 3 experience. So I was like, no, I'm gonna do someone I know will be able to handle the Forgotten Age, and so I played solo Ursula right after that, and she just mopped the floor with every scenario except for Boundary Beyond. Boundary Beyond was the only one that I think I got 1 pillar, and I was like, well, that's not great. But everything else was
That's a success.
Yeah, right? I'll take it, yeah. But everything else in that campaign was just, was so good. Like, she did amazingly. And then I got to City of Archives, and I got the result in City of Archives that changes the course of your campaign for the last 2 scenarios. So we can talk about that. I'm so excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right, she's no longer Ursula, so... Oof.
Yeah, I'll say, kind of going off what you're saying, Nick, I'll say that I've warmed to TFA, but it's also still the campaign that asks the most specific of you, that not every investigator is going to have a chance. Whereas I feel like both other campaigns, it might be rough for certain investigators and investigating combinations, but you still have a chance. Whereas TFA is just... I tried to start Skids and Daisy through TFA, and I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and retool those decks a bit, because they just got freaking hammered on Untamed Wilds to the point where I think I need to rethink things, and that's another case where... And actually one of the big weaknesses was Daisy and her 2 agility, trying to do stupid explore tests and pass these agility treacheries, so it's so hard for her to avoid getting poisoned compared to Ursula. But anyway.
Yeah. Untamed Wilds is such a ball buster of an opener.
And that's such a shame, because I think, I've warmed up a lot to Doom. I think Doom is actually a lot of fun. despite how much of a gauntlet it literally becomes.
I think that's the fun of it, honestly.
Right, exactly. No, that's so, like, Doom is such a cool scenario, and I hate that I have to get through Untamed Wilds again to get to Doom. It's just because Untamed Wilds, it's all right.
Become a bit of a chore.
But it's such a
honest.
it's like it's Forgotten Age just condensed into one scenario, going like, this is what you can kind of expect. And its identity is really, like, there really isn't a whole lot that's unique about it. You know what I mean? Like, everything that it does, you also see in later scenarios.
Yeah, it's definitely the intro in that respect.
Right, yeah. I almost kind of wish that they had done the prologue scenario bit for TFA and had made Untamed Wilds an optional prologue or something. I don't know.
Oh, and then we wouldn't care if all those investigators die horribly.
Yeah, exactly. The expedition failed. Who cares? Move on. Pick someone good.
House ruled. After the Circle Undone comes out, we'll come up with our own fan rules for sending those investigators to their death. All right, well, I think that's everyone for Play Stories, right? Did I skip anyone?
Nope, that should be everybody now.
Excellent. Ian, we have a little bit of Patreon business to take care of.
We do. As soon as I can scroll over to my notes. Okay, here we go.
Baby Shark.
Oh, shut up.
Do it.
Oh, why did you do that?
I thought I had escaped
You're
this
all
whole thing,
welcome.
and I was like, "What is this Baby Shark thing everyone keeps talking about?" And then my son comes home from daycare and starts singing it. I was like, "Why? Why would they do that to me?" Anyway, okay.
It's the modern day Lamb Chop song that never ends. It purely exists to test the sanity of all parents.
Also, Baby Shark is the rhythm you should do CPR to. I learned that last week. So there you go.
Yeah, but then the person isn't going to want to come back to the light. If they hear that coming
I'm gonna
from
be trying
the
to
other
push
end.
you away.
Leave me dead. I'd rather die.
Okay, so first off, as always, thanks to all our patrons for supporting us.
Woo.
And if you'd like to join them in that endeavor, you can go to patreon.com/mythosbusters. Thanks to our members of our board of directors, Chris Basie and Ian Redman Wallace. Thanks so much for your support each time. And as always, we've picked a random member of our patron list to thank. And Brian Nelson, thank you so much for supporting us. It's much appreciated. And finally, we are continuing our rollout of the job titles in the illustrious Mythosbusters offices, and so we have 2 new titles this time around. First off, I'm laughing, listener, because I'm reading the title for the first time. So Jeff Jackson's title is, and thank you, Jeff Jackson, for being a patron, is Lead Labyrinthian Lunatic Dominatrix. That is both a mouthful.
Those are 4 words.
Yes. That's a word salad of pain if I've ever seen
I would say
one.
we let the Keyforge. That title was submitted by the Keyforge Matrix. So.
So, congratulations and apologies in advance. A little of both. And Daniel Running. Hey, Daniel. Also gets a title this time around. Daniel's title is going to be Manager of Obscure References in Esoterica. So thank you, Daniel.
Yes.
I don't get it. It's too obscure.
Markedly less funny.
It's funny to us. I'll make some offhand comment in an episode, and then like a week later, Daniel's like, "Hey, sweet Robert Burns reference, bro." And I'm like, "Oh God, I didn't even remember that."
I don't even know who Robert Burns is.
Scottish
Who
poet.
George Burns is. Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
Mr.
And
Burns.
hey. So sorry. No,
Mr.
Ian,
Burns.
you go ahead and finish. Is that all the patron stuff? Or did I have an audible?
That is everything.
Okay, so I'm dropping in hot with a little bit of a surprise here. So, you guys know, as I do, I own like 6 different upgrade options for Arkham. I'm constantly looking at new upgrade options, and one dropped recently that caught my attention. They're called burger tokens.
Oh,
And
right.
I'll explain why in a second. So I bought my first set. I loved the clues, and I wanted just another set just so I could have enough clues from this set to do 4-player. And when I bought my second set, I got to talking with the runners of Burger Tokens, and they pledged an extra set to us to give away to our listeners. So
Nice.
I'll go ahead and talk about the Burger Tokens in a second here, but as it relates to our patrons, we're going to go ahead and give this away to a random patron. So again, if you're that person who has kind of intended or thought that it would be nice to hop on and support Mythos Busters, but just needed a little bit of a push, hopefully this is that push for you. So we're going to give it to the next time we record for new patrons to log on, or to hop on, as it were, and then on the next episode we'll draw a random patron to give away this set of Burger Tokens.
Awesome.
So on to the tokens themselves. I'm just going to throw a little review out here. So the reason they're called Burger Tokens is the construction of these things is that they are two like kind of globular halves of I think it's silicone. It's
Polyester?
Sure. I'm sure it's polyester.
Polyester tokens.
Has to be. Can't be
But
anything
the
else.
idea is you've got the two halves and you stick them to the sides of a penny or a similar sized coin. And that constitutes the core of the token. And if you've ever had penny gems, was kind of the forerunner of this kind of design. That's basically the same idea. I had a set of penny gems for Lord of the Rings that I still use and really liked. So when I saw these come out for Arkham, I was hopping on these immediately. So what's cool about these is that the material is self-healing and it's really friggin' durable. So what that also means for sleeved cards is that when you pop these things down on a sleeved card and just apply a little bit of pressure, it kind of adheres a little bit. So what I love about these is that the clues will stay put if you're moving locations around. You know, if you're throwing damage on an enemy, most of the time it stays on the card a lot better than, you know, your pile of tokens do if they're acrylic. And at the end of the day, I really like the design that they went with for these. So I'm very positive on this token setup, and it's kind of my go-to 4-player set now. And it's definitely my favorite clue design of any set that I've gotten. So
The clues are really nice.
Yes,
I have to agree with that. That's
it's the closest that I've seen to the stock token art for clues, which I am also a big fan of. I play so much that I can't use the stock tokens or they start to go white on me. But yeah, so anyway, really positive on these tokens. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, we're going to go ahead and blast this on our social media as well. So like I said, go check them out. And if you want to potentially win a set for free, join our patrons for the next episode.
You know,
All
when
right.
I first saw... I'm just going to jump in real quick. When I first saw that you were talking about Burger Tokens, I got unexpectedly excited. Because I was like, what the hell are you putting burgers on? Is there a card I don't know that uses burgers? And then you shared the link, and I'm like, well, those are cool, but they're not what I wanted.
And the set that he gave us actually came with like an extra promo token that is their Burger Token logo, more or less, but it is actually 2 buns. So,
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
so yeah, I am generally a fan. So moving on from here, Scott, I think we had some kind of newcomer, some upstarts in the community that we wanted to mention for community highlights this week, right?
Yeah, there's a group of guys that are throwing together and I think they're calling it Arkham in Flames, and it's going to be like an Arkham event in Dark Sphere, which I think is a store, I hope.
I believe.
Waterloo, London, England. Is Waterloo
UK.
like a neighborhood?
Europe. World.
Earth.
Thing.
Yeah, it's another podcast. I forget their name, though. They named it after a card. It's...
Was it the one that gets a couple clues?
Yeah, it's from the core set. You play at zero
Evidence.
cost. No.
Yes.
You play it and then you have to draw an encounter card. It's purple.
It sounds like a terrible card.
Yeah, it's probably terrible. Anyways, so they're having the event Arkham in Flames. It's going to be €25 a ticket. Tickets go on sale on Monday the 19th on Eventbrite. So yeah, you can check out that podcast. Again, can't remember the name. It's named after a card. But yeah, Arkham in Flames. I think they're trying to aim to kind of have like a Arkham Knights experience in the UK, seeing as a lot of, it's kind of far to go to Arkham Knights from Europe. So yeah, check it out if you are in the UKs or even the Europes.
I hate to ruin the joke, but just for the sake of offering information that's actually useful, it's Drawn to the Flame. Go check out Drawn to the Flame if you want to check this out.
And it turns out it's actually a baby eating seminar.
Yes.
Not an Arkham event. Yeah.
True.
Allegedly. So yeah, if you're in the UK, check that out. I know Frank and I think Peter have also run prior events, so I'm sure they're going to do a good job with it.
I think they had a 24-person Labyrinth event one time, like two separate Labyrinth games going on. Yeah, they're pretty good at throwing stuff together for UK folk. So yeah, check it out.
Excellent. All right, boys. So we don't have any news.
Nope.
And I believe we don't have any important rules PSAs.
So that's our show.
See you guys next time.
So guys, let's cut to the heart of the matter.
Oh God. Should we just archive this one for next time?
So satisfying. Yes, nicely done. All right, so before we hop into this, let's make sure we're properly spoiler warninged. Guys, we're hopping into our main topic here where we're going to discuss in depth the Heart of the Elders and the City of Archives scenarios. So if those are scenarios you have not yet played or for some other reason care about hearing deep cut spoilers, now's a great time to pause the podcast and hit us back later. Okay, they're still here. So, Heart of the Elders player cards. Any special mentions from you guys? While I pull up Arkham DB because I forgot that's the first thing we lead off with.
We all pull up Arkham DB because we all forgot it.
Well, since I'm the only one prepared, I'll go first and say
Intrepid?
custom ammunition.
You should probably drop it though. Because it's good in solo.
Yeah,
I mean, I do like Intrepid, don't get me wrong.
But you're our main killer, so you should probably...
But when I'm the main killer, I would rather go with custom ammunition.
Why do you have a 29-card deck?
Sorry, I'll stop. That was the best. Because I was so confused. I was like, what card am I missing? Oh, Intrepid, that's right. He took it out. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Check out Mythos bonus episode 5 for references to this joke. Anyway, custom ammunition I do like. I don't think it's not top of my list, but I'm happy that it exists because it increases damage, it adds ammo, and it's an attachment. It's not like an event, so it's supply too, so you can slap it on stick to the plan and put it on the weapon. Whatever weapon comes out that you really need this on. I like its design. So.
Yeah,
I have yet to try it, but I love it.
Mm-hmm. I use it in my Is There Any Other Card Other Than Shotgun deck, and it's nice. Yeah, and it's our only non-purple Mateo card.
Yeah, although...
Now, he did get one in this latest pack, though.
No.
Oh, that's true.
Sorry to burst that particular bubble.
But...
Yeah.
Could you see a situation in multiplayer with Mateo where you actually pack this in your deck to play on someone else?
I mean, I could see it. That doesn't mean I condone it.
Yeah. No.
I think a card has to be really good and really consistent in order for me to include it in my deck for someone else.
Yeah.
Even in multiplayer. Even as multiplayer guy, I think that this is a little sketch.
I mean,
but,
you could go full custom ammo if the Guardian is running 2 and Mateo's running 2.
Now, is this a replacement for or a complement to extra ammunition?
Is There Any Other Card Other Than Shotgun, which probably isn't the best example, I run both custom ammo and extra ammo because that's kind of the point of the deck. But I guess in a regular Guardian deck, I would probably replace extra ammo with this. I mean, it's only one more resource. and it's 2 more experience. So this would be like a late campaign, like scenario 7 or 8. I have 3 experience. Let's get this, increase my damage. Yeah, so I think normally it would be a replacement.
Do you think if you're gonna buy custom ammo, you ever even bother with extra? Or you just
extra
go straight
has always
to custom?
been like extra's always been something I spend my last experience on. Like when I'm leaving when I'm done upgrading and I still have 1 experience left, I'm like, well, maybe I'll get some extra ammo, because it's hard to say no to that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm Nick, and I'm swimming in experience.
My guardians are. Calvin certainly wasn't.
The thing too is custom ammunition is limit 1 per asset, so sometimes I like having both so that you can both custom ammo and extra ammo the same weapon.
Yeah. It's also fast, as Casey points out in the chat, and that's amazing.
that counts for
Yeah.
a fair amount.
A lot.
Yeah, because by the click economy, it's 1 more resource, but...
No clicks. No clicks. It takes no clicks. It's fast. Before you guys say anything else, I know what you're going to say.
Premonition's
Because I've had a premonition.
Oh, God.
And I know we talked about it on the last episode, but I'll toot the horn one more time. Love me some premonition. And I think, despite the fact that every one of the Mystic cards in this pack, Olive and Level 2 Defiance, I see play a lot, Premonition's still my favorite.
It's pretty good.
Man, this pack was really good. I'm looking at the cards again.
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to Lola Santiago, which is one of the best allies in the entire game. Like, probably top 3 allies in the entire game for me. I've talked about her before, but she's just bonkers. Because she boosts 2 stats, intellect and agility, which happen to be important for most rogues. And you get free clues in terms of actions, and don't have to take a test. Can we call them actionless clues instead of free clues? Yes, that works.
Yeah.
Actionless
like
and testless clues.
It's like when people call universal healthcare free, and like the Canadians are like, no, we pay taxes.
Sure.
Right?
Gotta love that timely political humor.
Right. That's what Mythos Busters are known for.
Is it that timely?
No, it's pretty universal by this point.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I think Seekers are the only ones that kind of got, I don't want to say the shaft, but I wouldn't call...
Expose weakness level 3?
It still only works on 1 test.
It's still not great.
Yeah.
But Seekers did... I'm sorry, Scott. No, you finish. You finish.
Well, I was moving on from Seekers, so you finish off with Seekers.
I was moving on from Seekers. I was going to say Seekers did get the ornate bow. But so did everyone else.
Yeah. I was going to say, there is a lot of good cards in this pack.
Mm-hmm.
All the Survivor cards are actually pretty good. Against All Odds, I think, is just a Calvin card. But...
That's the one with the Eldritch Horror art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that lets you reveal extra tokens,
Yeah, because from your base skill value, I'm going to reveal 5 tokens and choose the best one.
It's pretty good.
That would be a Wendy combat card, too. Like anybody who has a 1 or a 2, I think.
Yeah.
But Calvin's the one that when you read it, you're like, oh, this was made for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Live and Learn and Take Heart, both fantastic cards.
I love Take Heart.
I think I've actually come around to replacing emergency caches in my quiches in my deck with Take Heart. Because if Sean's gonna hate me for this, but if you look at the outcome, so emergency cache level 2.
I'm fine with comparing efficiency when cards are this close. We're good.
So you get 4 units of value out of emergency cache 2, right? No, but three resources in a card. Take Heart gives you 2 resources.
If we assume that
right?
cards and resources mean the same thing to you, yes. Let's assume that's true.
I'll only stop when you stop. That's
Oh, God. Someone save me.
But I mean, Take Heart.
We need a safe word.
You pick a test that you absolutely will fail, right? Like a combat thing with Wendy or whatever. And the thing I like about Take Heart is, so if you need money in cards and you have level 2 Quiche, you're not going to play it while you're engaged. Take Heart, you can pretty much play it whenever, because you can just fail a test against an enemy, and yes, there's tokens you can pull that would make it bad, but I feel like it's more flexible in that, and the fact that it's a level 0 and I would consider it equal to a level 2 Quiche. I think it's a fantastic card. I can't believe it's a level 0.
I think it asks enough finesse of you that it. I think it doesn't require XP.
Have you ever played
Obviously.
Take Heart on a test and then succeeded the test?
Yes.
I have, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
like
run
all
this
those
as
stupid Look What I Found plays when, of course, you draw the +1. It's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like, well, now I'm tied.
I run this as a one of in most Silas builds, and you think with 2 willpower and 2 intellect, there's a fair few tests he can fail. But you kind of get so used to the rhythm of Silas where you're committing cards and pulling them back, and if you're running Yaddle, you're doing that. So I've had to remind myself to let myself fail when this is in there for the test. But what's nice about it in Silas is that if you happen to pass, you pull the +1, you can just pop it back to your hand and not lose it. It's pretty sweet.
I will just give a prop to the bow. We mentioned it briefly, but the bow has become one of my favorite cards in the whole game. Won't come as a surprise to many of our listeners, but I play a lot of high agility investigators, and so the bow and Finn, the bow and Windy, the bow and Skids, like it's all so good. It's been a huge game changer in terms of the whole card pool.
Yeah,
I feel like
it gives some decent damage output to investigators who had no options for it prior to its release.
Mm-hmm. Or not like very efficient options.
Yeah, I included the Ornate Bow into my solo Ursula deck, and it was phenomenal. Like, I love it.
Yeah, Ursula too, for sure.
No, I think it's totally thematic, and I love it for it. But the only issue I ever had with the bow was there were times when I would draw an enemy off the encounter deck, and I'm like, shoot, I didn't knock an arrow. Like, well, great.
Yeah, that's when I feel like investigators like Finn who get a free evade are at an advantage for using it, or someone who's using the Manatee and has an extra action, that kind of thing.
Or what's that card that you convinced me to like, Nick? The green event, cancel an attack.
Narrow escape.
Narrow escape.
Perfect
into
opportunity.
Ornate
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
That's
a good card. I shouldn't have had to convince you. You should have seen it.
No, thank you for opening my eyes.
It was Brandon that was tainting your mind.
I know. Evil Brandon.
Evil Brandon. He's never coming back on AV Club, right? Am I right?
Never. God.
So I guess talking about Explore on this one, the Explore deck ends up looking a lot like Untamed Wilds, which I think is kind of why Nick would say, like, hey, we see all this stuff later. It honestly, I feel like the first part of Heart of the Elders kind of feels like Untamed Wilds Part 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really does.
A lot of the same locations.
The big difference, I think, is the boss enemy, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be the most notable difference.
I actually like the design of this boss enemy, which pops up when you advance Act 1, I believe. It's the backside of that, the winged serpent. So it's basically invincible. You can't kill it. And it has a beefy fight value and all that. But it's interesting that it doesn't give... the part of the design I like is that it doesn't make attacks of opportunity, so that you can still get stuff done, but if you run out of time or in range, it's going to pop you in the face.
That's because it flies around up in the air until it swoops down to get you.
Well, and it's not like the damage isn't heavy. Like, it's a 1-1, which, after 2 or 3, you really start to feel. But in general, like, that's very palatable. Like, this is a boss enemy that's more just a consistent threat about using your actions than it is about actually trying to kill you, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
He's kind of a positioning puzzle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a clock as well. Like, it just kind of keeps you going,
Well,
in some of those boss fights where, like, the enemy will have an area effect attack, and you kind of see on the ground the bad telegraph. That's what this guy is. Like, he telegraphs where he's going to be and where he's going to attack, and you move around it, and that's just kind of
One of the things I found playing this scenario a bit is that you can totally game it because you're not forced to advance the act. It's one of the ones you can spend the clues when you want. So I just gather all the clues I need, then go back to the beginning, then advance the act, then immediately put a pillar on the starting location, which exhausts the winged serpent. So you can kind of turn them into a non-issue, which maybe isn't the best experience, but if you're playing through TFA and want to game it, which you do, that's an option.
Well, and especially after Boundary Beyond, like, it feels like this one's kind of the, like, sorry I did that to you.
Yeah.
Here's a softball.
Here's a softball.
Yeah.
Actually, just I'm looking through. I have this set up right now on my table for my Zoe and Wendy campaign. I'm looking through the encounter deck. Ants is an interesting card.
Oh, I hate it.
Hate it in
Tell
a
us
good
why.
way.
No, I don't like this. I've just the whole agility 4. Well, okay, I'm the opposite of Ian. I tend to play investigators with low agility. So the first time I encountered this was with my solo Roland campaign, which would have been a while, like when this first came out. And that was just destroying my hand. Like, every time I'd pull it, it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, well, now I have one card, so ants isn't going to do anything. Nope, I got to get rid of the stuff I have now. Like, the ants are eating my gun now, which is, it's terrible. But for an investigator like Ursula, it hasn't been much of an issue. So, I mean, this is one that your mileage will vary, but I just do not like it. Ugh.
How about the Apex Strangleweed enemy?
Oh, gross.
Where if you have a pocket knife, it's game text doesn't apply. It's still a gross enemy, even without that weird forced effect, but
Yeah. Ugh,
it's a rough little enemy.
You earn your victory point, Apex
Yes.
Strangleweed.
Yeah. This is one where I actually had some extra time at the end with Finn and Ursula, so I went strangleweed hunting with a bow, and I've got a plan to get that victory point.
Strangleweed's a great little argument for Monster Slayer. Just saying.
Yep.
Sure.
Is it a monster?
Does Monster Slayer require it's a monster, or is that just an enemy?
I think,
Monster Slayer's the 5 XP one. You're right.
yeah, it's
yes.
not non-elite, yeah.
I was thinking... What was I thinking of?
Also,
I was
Thud.
thinking of the horror heal. Thud.
Thud is really
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, speaking of other enemies, the one that I actually really like the design of is the Basilisk.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the 2-attack enemy. It's a 4/4/4, which is not nothing, and a hunter. And it's got Vengeance too, so when you finally do solve it, it's like, oh great, and now I've got Vengeance too. But in this scenario specifically, once you put a pillar token on the mouth of Kinyan, you shuffle it from the victory display back into the encounter deck. So it kind of gives you a way. I honestly think this is one of the cooler interactions with Vengeance, where it's like you're pressing your luck a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh, am I going to be able to get another pillar on while it's still in there and not have to deal with anything else? And I don't know. I just feel like it's one of the...
It's better than, like, flipping the act and seeing if you didn't bring this supply, gain a vengeance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I like how it kind of works with the winged serpent. Like, the feel of this this scenario is, you know,
Very
like
snaky.
Yeah, well, and you just like putting the pillars on. It just like everything calms down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. So one of the key parts of this scenario is the fact that you essentially have like a reset button and can keep playing it over and over again as much as you want until you get to 6 pillar tokens. Then you start with however much you have in Boundary Beyond. How did you guys feel about the? Because I have some feelings about it, but how did you guys feel about the reset button option?
Iron Man wise, I hate it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
I kind of like it. I'm okay with it. I don't know. I think it's an interesting mechanic.
I think it's neat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cute. But I wish there was a way to get further without having to have all 6. Because, like I said, this part of this scenario stopped Calvin dead in his tracks.
Oh, we'll just get all 6 on Boundary Beyond, and then you can skip it.
Yeah, oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
just do that.
The harder scenario.
Which is nice that you get to skip it, but then you also miss out on the XP from the scenario.
Right.
Which is
how weird.
They should give you some free XP or something. I don't know.
They should.
Well, just
what do you think of it, Ian?
Well,
feel your feelings for us.
I like the idea. Like, I've liked this theme throughout the campaign that you can get a redo on certain things, like you do in Doom of Esli. Although in that case, it's if you fail. But I really like the idea that you can just keep kind of trying and redoing it, but the actual experience sometimes just feels like it drags the scenario on too long.
Yes.
Like, I've had times of playing this where you just keep running short and you gotta hit the reset button and play it through like 3 times, and it's not like it's changing each time or doing anything different. So yeah, I really like the idea and I'd like to see it used again potentially in the future, but
they did it better with Depths of Yath.
Sure. Yeah, true. But in practice, it's just sometimes it makes it feel well. Especially here's the thing too: when it's in a 2-part scenario. So not only are you potentially replaying this, but then you're playing part 2 as well afterwards, presumably. So.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, but I feel like the scenario needs to be just like gripping or just short of it.
Yeah.
For that to really work. And nothing in Heart of the Elders really offends me, but I don't think it's really exciting.
It's Untamed Wilds 2.0.
It's one of the most boring scenarios.
Yeah, it's the least memorable of the entire campaign. Like, Untamed Wilds is just a notch above this, simply because it's the first one. Like, it's your introduction to the campaign. So, of course, it's going to leave a mark on you. But, I don't
Several.
know, like,
Trauma
yeah, a
and scars.
bunch of them. Yeah, snake bites. But with Heart of the Elders, it's like, if it had, like a panic button, like what Doom of Edsley did. Like, I played Doom of Edsley twice with Calvin and got trauma, and I was like, forget this, I'm blowing this shit up. Like, if Heart had something like that, I think I'd be much more open to it. But
where you could take a big amount of vengeance to skip the pillar tokens.
Yeah, just like blow up the first level of this part of the jungle and just go right down into the caves. I don't know. Like, that was my biggest problem.
The other weird part about it, and this part doesn't really offend me, but it's just interesting, is that it's actually really open to gaming it as well, and that, like, if you reset the button and you don't like your opening hand, just reset it again, and you can just keep resetting until you get the opening hand you really like and go forth. Like, that's totally a thing you can do, and it's perfectly legal.
So I guess here's an ethics question for you about that then.
Sure.
In an infinite
I
number
know where
of
you're
shuffles,
going.
like
monkeys and typewriters.
Yeah. Why not just pick your starting hand and just say, I mulliganed until I found this exact hand? I mean, I can see some people doing it.
Is that an Iron Man strategy?
Well, maybe. But I think if you're poisoned, though, do you still get the... You don't get trauma at the end of this scenario, though.
I don't have my campaign guide.
So I don't think the interlude where it hits you is until after part 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah. So you can just
also
keep doing it.
This isn't one of the scenarios that has a supply trigger that prevents you from mulliganing, is it?
It is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
And it also you could also possibly start with 2 or 3 less resources as well.
2
yeah.
Fewer, yeah.
And that counts for
which
every
if you're
time
indebted.
You
yeah,
know,
some
honestly,
of those supply consequences are rough. I find especially the fewer cards in the opening hand is pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as Iron Man goes, I'd be okay if a group just got hands and just say, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
After Boundary Beyond, like, okay, so we just reset infinitely until... why not?
The only real ongoing threat of this scenario is being a time sink. So, in something like Iron Man, unless you're set up in such a way that you don't get that mulligan, like, then that player is just SOL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, just in general, this scenario I haven't found to be super punishing. It's more an exercise in addition to patience. Like, 1, how much XP are you farming for? And 2, trying to avoid being poisoned. Like, those are the 2 big considerations, basically.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm going back through the setup here. there's one thing that lets you. Oh yeah, the map. There it is. If anyone has a map, you will have mapped out the way forward, and your random ancient location that you get starts in play.
Yep.
Which helps.
Which helps. I mean, in the click economy, that's saving an action, and
You can't. That's scenario cards.
It's spreading.
it makes as much sense as any other click economy argument I've ever heard.
No, it doesn't.
That isn't even from our game. Like, that's from Netrunner.
Hey, no, now we have, the time card.
Borrowed time.
Borrowed time, there's clicks.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
God damn it, Matt.
It's infiltrated.
Why does he have to be a Netrunner fan?
Such a
it was a
bad
good
game.
That was a good... I liked it. I had fun as the core. I never played as the runner. Anyway, focusing on Arkham.
Yeah.
So let's move on to part 2, as you do. So a couple interesting things about setting this guy up. The Jungle Watches is basically making sure you're carrying forward your vengeance points. I mean, this one, I guess it feels a little bit like Doom in its exploration deck, but
Yeah.
it is still, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, so Scott, you wanted to mention no turning back?
Yeah, if you don't have pickaxe, that's a brutal card.
I feel like pickaxe is a must for someone
Yep.
Yes.
I've taken it every
in
campaign.
4-player. Yep. More so than the pocket knife to deal with the strangleweed.
Yeah, because Strangleweed, you have a bunch of different ways to deal with enemies, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's evasion, there's Disc of Zomna, like, you know, like everyone has answers for enemies. That's like a main part of the game, but not everyone would be good at combat, and it's a test. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you can just action get rid of this, that's a pretty light treachery. So,
Although there's potentially other reasons to take the pocket knife, which we won't talk about because we're not there yet in the campaign.
right, yeah.
But yeah, pickaxe is definitely a must for that one.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that card, I mean, it's got your serpents, it's got, you know, your deep dark and your final mistakes and your ancestral fear. Is that the one that doesn't need surge but has it?
Yeah. Yeah, no turning back is the only new encounter card for part 2.
Yeah, so I think ultimately this one just ends up again, just kind of feeling not necessarily bad or offensive in any way, just kind of generic, I guess?
Yeah, it's Doom of Etsley without the thing that makes Doom of Etsley super cool,
Yeah.
which is the map redesign. So
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially the weird thing about Heart of the Elders is just that part 1 is Untamed Wilds 2.0 and Heart of the Elders part 2 is Doom of Etsley 2.0. Like, because it has that same, it takes the same mechanic of putting Doom on locations as, like, its central mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And it shares so many of the same encounter sets is really what it does it for me.
But not as difficult as Doom of Etsley, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, usually by the time I get to part 2, I can most of the time just cruise through it as long as I don't get poisoned in part 1.
I wonder if that part of that comes from the, like, a design aspect where Matt looked at it and said, okay, like, because this is essentially a 2 scenario, it feels like this, like, the second half is shorter so that you don't feel like you're playing 2 full scenarios. Like, the idea is you play Heart of the Elders 1 to kind of get caught up once, hopefully, and then you have another quick scenario. And I think I'm okay with that, actually, because, like, I enjoyed this one just being like a quick little fun jaunt through the caves and then move on to the best scenario.
Unless you didn't bring a pickaxe.
Unless you
See, and I'm of the mindset where it's like, this is it's a really cool idea, and I love that he tried it, but I almost rather would have just had one full scenario that felt unique and had an identity of its own, rather than 2 small scenarios that took less time to play, but felt like I was just redoing 2 other scenarios. You know what I mean?
And I think that part of what's lost with the Heart of the Elders in general is that part of its hook is the interplay with Boundary Beyond. If we were all more positive and excited about Boundary Beyond, I feel like we would feel differently about Heart of the Elders.
Or do you think we'd just be even more disappointed if Heart of the Elders was unchanged, if it was the same thing it is now, but Boundary was a fun experience? You know what I mean? I think that would almost feel a little bit more disappointing.
Anything's possible. But we
Okay.
we can peek into that world where Boundary Beyond is fun.
Sean saying, I don't want to take part in that discussion.
I think it's the interaction of all the different elements. Like, the repeat mechanic could be cool if you weren't doing 2.0, you know, and having two-part scenario could be cool if you weren't doing the same two scenarios again, like if it was brand new things. But I'm sure it's like part of the limitations of actually designing these things too, is like if you're doing two-part scenarios, that means you have to be reusing a lot of other cards.
Yeah. I think it's just an artifact of how the encounter deck is assembled.
And how much
that LCGs
cards
come in
you
60
can include.
pack.
Yeah.
I must say though that these two scenarios, like as a whole, the Heart of the Elders, like after we played Boundary Beyond and I was like super negative, this actually changed my opinion a bit, because I think my opinion of Boundary Beyond was based on the fact I'm like, I only got 1 or 2 pillars, and I'm like, oh, there's a catch-up mechanic on the next one. Like, it's okay to only get 1 or 2.
It's definitely gentler. That's one thing I could say.
but it's almost like the whole scenario is the catch-up mechanic, which then it's like, why does that catch-up mechanic even exist? Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah.
I'm of the other mindset where I played Boundary and I was like, well, this is unnecessary. And then I played Heart of the Elders and I'm like, this is almost unnecessary too. Like, it felt
Highly
like,
irregular.
it felt like the two of them together exist in this own little pocket dimension of Forgotten Age, where it's like, we only we focus on each other. And then it's like, well, what are you two doing to the rest of the campaign? Nothing. Like, it was a little aggravating. Now, as much as I love the theme of this part of the story overall, where it's like we gotta there's the time stuff and we gotta go back in time in Boundary Beyond, and then we gotta go back to the jungle and do all this stuff, but it's just other than vengeance and experience, it didn't have any lasting effect on the scenarios around it. That to me is the biggest drawback.
That's the thing for me, is like I agree with Nick that I really like the story and this idea of like there's this theme of time and repetition that goes throughout, and I like the idea of like going back to where it all began to rectify your mistakes. Like, that's all compelling to me in terms of story. But in terms of actually playing it, like, sometimes that doesn't match up. And for me, I feel like TFA overall I have warmed, as I've said, but Boundary and Heart of the Elders are the definite low point. Like, this is where the campaign sags for me. The first 3 scenarios I'm actually okay with, and I like them. The back half is the strongest for me. Once you get from City of Archives on, is really good. But this is where... And I almost... Like, Heart of the Elders actually is worse for me than Boundary in certain ways, because Boundary at least is, like... It's doing something, even if you don't like what it's doing. It's new. It has new mechanics going on, like... even though it's punching you in the face, like, it's doing it in a new way. Whereas
using its left hand,
like,
at least it's bothering to be creative about the way in which it punches
it's
you.
finding new ways to give you a wedgie.
That was a hook. You didn't do that last time.
But Heart of the Elders, like, I hate to say it, but it's just kind of there, and that to me is kind of the worst sin.
Okay, I agree with everything that's been said. But before this turns into Bitch Fest 2019, let's talk about kind of the story resolution here, the twist, if you will.
The twist is good.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was satisfying.
Yeah.
I mean, we all fucking knew Alejandro was a dick, right?
Yes,
Right.
we did.
We just didn't
I
know
was really hoping he would turn out to be the cool guy. Like, that's what I was hoping for.
Well, I don't know.
We just didn't know he was a
Scenario left.
conical shaped dick. Is what we did.
Yes, we didn't know. We didn't know the exact nature and origin of his dickishness.
Yes.
Right.
But I thought it was cool, and it left me wondering, like, okay, what the hell is City of Archives gonna do? I mean, we already kind of knew because the preview article spoiled the best part about it, but I thought it was still Well, we're about to transition into City of Archives anyway, so let's just talk about it. It's kind of a cool little like left turn to all of a sudden be like, oh hey, by the way, you thought this was the Yeeg campaign? Oh no, it's Yeeg and Yoth.
Yoth.
Yeah.
So
Also, like, you brought up the reveal article. How like, in retrospect, how cool would it have been for this to be a guarded secret? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And to just, you didn't know until you're literally sleeving the cards, and you're like, wait a minute, Yithians? Like,
Yep.
I don't play as my investigator? Like, what? Like, oh my god, that would have been a 5-star moment for TFA. Like, that would have been amazing.
This is the equivalent to me of when the Ragnarok previews came out and they spoiled the Hulk scene. You're like, dudes! Like, I still enjoyed it when it came out, but if I had seen that the first time in the theater, like, I would have shat myself with excitement.
That's a little different because... I don't want to get into this discussion, but
I know you're reading way too far into my metaphor here.
You're right, I am. Anyway, seeing that in the trailers made me want to see Ragnarok, whereas if that wasn't in the trailers, I probably would have been much less excited about the movie. Anyway, moving on.
I would liken it to, imagine someone who had never heard of Lord of the Rings before seeing the movies, which is me, and I saw the trailer for The Two Towers, and they reveal that Gandalf comes back.
Oh, yeah.
That
definitely does take the sting out of it.
That's a story that existed for 50 years.
Right, but
like,
if someone who doesn't know the story, it's a big plot point, and they're like, hey, it's in the trailer.
Yeah, that's true. It's like any movie trailer where they show anything past Act 1. Anyway, moving on.
Well, here's my last shot at a metaphor. So, when I was a kid, I went into watching Predator for the first time, having no idea there was an alien in it, and I thought it was just an army movie. And then all of a sudden, the Predator shows up, and my mind was freaking blown. Like, that would have been my experience of City of Archives if I didn't know.
You got the one and only ideal experience for Predator.
Oh, it was so amazing.
You're probably the only person in existence
I was
who
like,
got
what is
that.
going on?
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool.
You should write a story about that experience. That's worth that's worth archiving for posterity.
In the city.
See what I did there?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Hey, player cards. Nick, is there any cards you like in this pack at all?
Oh, yeah!
He's already pasted into the chat.
So, I was a little bummed that Guardian only got one card in this pack.
But boy, did they.
But boy, did they get a card. The M1918 bar. Holy crap. Oh, man. It's super good. 8 ammo, you can spend a variable amount of it, up to 5, and you increase your attack and your damage for it. Like, for our Iron Man, I was expecting to go with 1 bar and 1 shotgun, just to have both, because they both kind of serve different needs. Yeah. But the bar, because of its versatility, just kicked the shotgun out entirely. So, yeah, I love it. I love the Browning automatic rifle. I'm super glad that they put it in here. It's such a great weapon.
The card that really... Well, there's a few in here. This is another pretty good pack, I think. The one that stood out to me is Payday for rogues, that I've been using it a ton, and it's not for every rogue, and I feel like Finn especially is the best home for it, because he can't take the higher XP resource stuff like Hot Streak 4. But Payday gives you a resource for each action you took this turn, including the last action you take to play it. And Finn gets a free of 8 action, so usually you're getting 4. If you have Leo, it's 5. Throw in Quick Thinking, it's 6 resources. Throw an Ace in the Hole, and it's even more, so you get the point. It's a lot of resources for
at worst, it's a quiche that you have to play last, right?
Yeah, at worst. Yeah.
At best, it's like the entire diner full of quiches. I gotta give Slip Away. Like, that's a really good card, especially in something like oh god, what's his name? Finn.
Forgotten Age.
Oh, Finn. Yeah. Well,
Forgotten Age. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic event, and we finally see what happens to the ancient stones in this pack.
Yes. Let's talk about those. So the Ancient Stones were interesting because even the base level one that you have to identify cost XP.
Mm-hmm.
So when these came out, I'm like, these better be friggin' good. And one of them is. I personally am a fan of the Knowledge of the Elders, which is the one that deals damage after you draw cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Mine's in Harmony? Maybe for multiplayer?
In Carcosa, I think Minds in Harmony would have been.
And
pretty good.
it's kind of like retrofitting something, right? Like going back to Cargo. Yeah, but I agree. It is very much
Like,
a 4-player game one.
Aside
also,
from Carolyn and Foolishness, is
I
there
was just gonna
any?
say Carolyn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there any big combo that you could think of for pulling horror off an asset specifically?
I don't think there's like a big combo. I mean, if you have someone who has, I don't know, Pete Sylvester out, or like any horror soak that they need, like think about Mark when he has Brother X out. Like maybe he wants to keep a little bit more horror soak on Brother X so you can heal that off, right? Like it's keeping him healthy. Just because it can be off any card, like you can heal your teddy bear. So, no.
So, can Carolyn take level 1+ secret cards?
I believe so.
You
Yes.
could take 0 and 1, yeah. 0 and 1
Oh, okay.
secret,
I was gonna say, can she not take the lower version of the
That
Ancient
would've sucked.
Stone?
Yeah.
Because then someone else would have to take it and identify it, and then because you can't upgrade outside the deck. Like, just because it's in the campaign log doesn't matter.
Yeah, because this has to upgrade from the
the
level
original,
1
yeah.
version.
Okay, but
Which
never mind, it's all
means
moved
it only
anyway.
actually costs you 3 XP, correct?
Yes.
No, because you still have to farm you don't, just because you spent an XP on the original one doesn't mean that XP is still floating there. You still have to get all 4 XP for the later one.
Well, you have no. Like the Ancient Stone you're translating from, you already paid 1 XP.
Oh,
and
right.
upgrade.
So it's like going from level 3 shriveling to level 5 shriveling. It only costs you 2 XP.
I'm a guardian. I don't do that.
So cool thing with this is for Carolyn, Nick, because I know you'll probably do this at some point. Take Shrewd Analysis, because when you go to upgrade, you can't get anything but Minds in Harmony. So you just get both Minds in Harmony for 1, like 2 for 1.
That's true.
Yep.
That's, oh my god, you found the Shrewd Analysis play.
But
the
you still
one hyper-specific moment where it's useful.
Yeah.
you still have to have taken 2 copies of the level 1 version, right? Though. in order
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
that?
But
Yes.
you don't have to
Which
pay
is
for
fine.
the upgraded twice. And Shrewd Analysis is free. You just put it in your deck at the beginning of the game. You just there it is, done.
Yeah.
I think the main reason I find it hard to evaluate the higher versions is because I haven't done the identifying yet, so I don't have a good sense of like how many uses you're getting on this thing. Like it gives
You're at least 3.
it gives plus
Yeah.
3 shroud to whatever you're doing, and then it's the total shroud is the how many charges or secrets I guess it is you get.
I'm finding I'm usually getting around like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think I'm at 6 for my Ursula that grabbed this.
Okay.
And we
I've
have
only ever used it once.
ways of reloading secrets now too. So
Yes, we do.
True.
Confession time. I've
got a confession.
I have never identified the solution,
Oh my gosh.
translated the glyphs,
Oh, no.
or identified the stones. Because I was so and there's not like a reason
dead
for it.
to
It's
me.
literally it's just because I look at these cards and I'm like, I don't want to do the extra work. I want to do the stuff that I want to do. Like, I want to play the card and have the card do something. I don't want to have to plan ahead for my upgrade. Like, boo that.
it's a side quest.
Nick
Nick.
sees the upgraded versions and he's like, "No, you can't make me."
Right. Well, I think part of the reason is because I was beyond excited for Strange Solution, and then it ended up just being an upgrade card and not like a story trigger. And I was like, no. Writing in the campaign log should be story stuff.
It's your story,
But
Nick,
that's
that
just-
you're writing.
Yeah. Yes.
My story's the most boring one here.
Okay, Crystalline Elder Sign, amazing
Yes.
in solo.
Yes.
I'd say it's amazing in multiplayer. You just have to politic correctly so that the table doesn't hate you.
You know what? Depending on who's using it, like to me, it's like if I'm trying to pass a test, I'm not counting on the +1. So if that gives one of my coworkers, if you will, like a better chance at succeeding at all his stuff, that means there's less work for me.
Yep.
Right? Like
exactly.
if I guarantee that Nick is passing all of his tests, like if you get 3 out of 3 tests instead of 2 out of 3, that eases up the workload on me, and so I don't miss that +1. If you seal the Elder Sign, you're a dick. But
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you correctly politic Crystalline Elder Sign.
Yep. You just have to
What
make
if-
sure
what
that
if-
you're pulling enough weight to and taking enough tests to make
that's
it worth
important.
it.
That's important.
What if you're playing with all investigators who have shitty Elder Sign abilities?
Then you should probably pick different investigators.
There's
I say
good
as a person
investigators
who
out-
loves Agnes.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are good investigators out there that have bad Elder Sign ability, or at least not
that's
useful
true.
Elder
That's
Sign
true.
abilities.
Yeah.
So, if you're playing 2-player Roland Agnes, who are a great team,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they would probably prefer the Elder Sign be in there. Or out
Yeah.
of there.
out of
The
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 +1.
+1 would be
well,
better.
in the card out of the bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually put
Um,
this into my solo Ursula,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty good because she can take relics.
Yes.
It's like balanced key almost.
yeah, that's fair.
And I want to give a huge up to my sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because both a resource card and a draw card in Mystic that, oh god, this card is just so good, guys, because there are so many times where you will, as you do with a Mystic, you mulligan hard for your Shriveling and you get it down early game, but then you're like mid game, you've had to take care of a couple enemies, you blow your last charge on Shriveling, and then you just kind of feel naked.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrifice lets you go, okay, well, I've got my other Shriveling in my hand, but I'm low on resources. Bang, empty Shriveling's gone. Now I've got my resources, or I need to dig hard for my other Shriveling. I mean, you've got that option and flexibility. It's also a great solution for any of your cards that are stacking Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a great way to just go ham on Redfield and then draw 3 cards, and you're like, all right, now I have a butt ton of resources and way more cards to spend them on. I just can't say enough good things about Sacrifice. Zero cost for 1 XP. It's so good.
Even the just with the spells like you talked about, like this takes something you're gonna do already, which is discard that spell, and it's just asking you to spend 1 action, 1 click, if you will, to draw 3 cards and gain 3 resources, to do what you were gonna do already.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm currently working on some on your own decks. Trying to
Okay, I
figure
was
out
just
where
wondering
it's-
if anyone had actually taken
It's
it
on my
yet.
list to try, but I haven't done it yet.
I took it in Calvin.
that's what I think is the best build for it, like a dark horse Calvin.
Because that's Calvin in the art, right?
Is it?
No.
Isn't it? Doesn't he
No.
doesn't he wear
Calvin
overalls?
doesn't have
I
a
don't think-
goatee.
No. He usually wears this like shirt.
Calvin's
that's all
not
ripped.
bald.
Well, if he's living
Do you
rough
know
for
who
long
Calvin
enough,
is?
this is like future Calvin. He's old
Oh
and
my
grizzled.
Well, it is forgotten age. I can't doubt that, I guess. But
Seriously
Jesus.
though, doesn't Calvin wear
that's-
overalls and is
that is
usually
not.
depicted
Hang on, I
holding
gotta
something?
pull up Calvin now. You're like angering me with this.
On his card, he has some kind of ripped dress shirt, like. And
He has a dress shirt and he has suspenders.
I mean,
Sean.
this is Calvin in the same way that Defiance is Brother X.
he's gonna.
Oh wait, no, you're right. That's totally the same person.
just
They
traded
both
in
have
his
some
shirt
sort of
for
vertical line on their upper torso.
Just went for some.
Oh no,
Oshkosh
okay, he's not
bagosh.
wearing overalls. It's suspenders. That's way
Suspenders!
cooler. Way cooler.
And he's holding.
And
Right.
you know, 2 people can wear the same thing.
I take it back. I take it back.
There's only
Jesus
one
Christ.
pair of coveralls or overalls
Yeah,
in all of
Arkham
Arkham.
Files universe.
You guys are acting like it would be a weird thing for them to put the art of the likeness of an investigator
No,
that's already
we're
established
not.
on
We're
a player
acting-
card.
We're acting like it's a weird thing that you think Calvin was on your own
And he lost all his hair.
and put it all on his face.
That Mythos is stressful.
Sorry, Sean, but There's just no way around it.
I regret everything.
Great pack, though. Great pack.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I think it's our lightest pack as far as cards go, though. Like there was only 8 player
because there
cards.
were so many encounter cards that needed to be included because this one's so wacky.
Yep.
And so amazing.
Scott, I'd love it if you would lead our discussion through this scenario.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to scroll to our notes. Thank you. Okay, so, you become a, I believe it says motherfucking Yithian.
Yes.
So I'll just go ahead and read the Yithian card. Basically, each of you're a 2/2/2/2, 7/7. Each of your ally assets gain a Yithian trait. After you commit card to a test, you're performing double the skill icons of that card, limit once per test. Elder Sign is +2, draw a card. But the best part is on the back,
Yeah.
where the deck size is what it used to be when you were human. Deck building options. Yithians can't build decks. Deck building requirements. Do you remember? It's fantastic.
I love that has caused like actual mechanical questions.
Rules
like,
questions?
yeah, if I stay as a Yithian, what does it mean for my deck? Do I get a deck?
It means you can't change your deck, right? Is ultimately it.
Well, you can't change it, but also if you exile a card, you can't bring it back in. So
Wait, so you can't spend experience and buy cards?
correct. So you can't, like, if you use Flare or a Test of Will, you use it, it's exiled, it never goes back in your deck for the rest of the campaign.
Do you
Well, I
replace
need
it
to
with
redo
something
Yeps
else?
of Doth.
What's that?
Do you replace it with anything else, like a level 0 card?
You can't build a
No,
deck.
it's just gone.
It's gone.
You just have a 28 card deck.
Yeah, your deck size.
But your deck size then is not what it used to be.
Well, do you even remember?
Gray mares.
God damn.
Yeah.
It's
That's nuts. I gotta redo Depths of Yath then because I totally put
yeah.
the
Once you become a
cards in.
Yithian, your deck is set unless you exile something.
Man, Ursula's done.
Becoming a Yithian is pretty rough to finish the campaign.
Yeah.
So bad!
It's really bad.
Although,
I can't wait for Iron Man where it's just like one of us doesn't make it all the way out.
No, watch. It'll be 3 Yithians and Calvin.
Then you gotta slog it through Depths of Yath as a
Oh
fucking
my
Yithian.
yeah.
And they move slow. They're cones.
You know, if you took a desperate Duke and turned him into a Yithian, might be okay.
that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you don't start with Duke in play anymore.
No, but that's fine. All your desperate cards count for double their.
Where does Duke say you start with Duke?
It's
and
on
play?
Ashcan. It's on
Ooh.
Ashcan. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you'd lose that, but all your skill cards would count for all your desperate skills would count for 8 skill icons.
Yeah. Well, once you're desperate.
Once you yeah. If you're failing all your tests, you'll get there quick.
Yeah. When you're 2/2/2/2, yeah.
Well, what about Yithian Lola?
Yeah.
Yes, Yithian Lola.
Oh,
That's Power Lola.
Interesting. That is power. We
Yithian
made her good.
Lola is
Turn her
best
into an
Lola.
alien.
Well, I'm
Somehow.
taking Yithian Lola through Iron Man, and I'm just gonna make sure to grab
Yeah, I'll
Stubborn
take
Detective
Yithian,
with the
Duke.
handcuffs.
What sound do you think a Yithian makes? I imagine they sound. Yeah, I imagine they sound like a lot like Power Ranger putties.
I feel like they make.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going for like a Murloc.
I think they make like clicking noise, like what's the noise from
Jesus Christ.
what's that movie with Mel Gibson, the alien one?
Signs.
Signs,
I almost
yeah.
said signals.
Like
what
the-
the hell?
The
I almost said Apocalypto.
like that clicking noise. That's what I think they
Yeah.
sound. But
Well, I'll expect everyone who turns into a Yithian to be playing in character.
And clicking the whole time.
oh god,
Yes.
If you're listening to our podcast right now, call and leave us a voicemail just in Yithian.
yeah. You know
Please.
that'd be a great ultimatum.
Yeah. Yeah. That where's the phone number? That's 203-493 myth.
Or 6984 if you prefer.
What's a Yithian's favorite kind of economy?
A click economy. You're fine. All right. So, anyways, when we start the campaign, you get a choice. You can either choose to cooperate or resist. If you choose to cooperate, you start at the arrival chamber. Yithian observer starts in a chamber unengaged, and each gator gets a clue. But the better way is if you resist.
Yes.
And you punch the Yithian observer in the face, and he goes into the victory display, which
So
is
good.
fantastic.
I mean, that's cool, but starting with that clue is also really nice too. Like, I mean, on not like, ignoring my stance as like I'm the guardian, I gotta kill shit. Isn't starting with a clue just better?
No. I have yet to cooperate, actually. I've resisted every time.
Really?
I think the issue is...
my blind run, I cooperated, and I was glad that I did.
The issue is when that Yithian observer comes to get you, it's harder to deal with him than it is to just get clues.
A single clue.
Yeah.
Yep. Fully agree.
That's fair. That's
Because the Yithian observers are not an inconsiderable
gentle.
enemy.
Especially
right.
when you
No,
have two
they're one of the
combat.
harder ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're 2-2-2-2.
Yes.
It's rough.
And you can't have items out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's right.
Like you are just punching him in the face with your Yithian things.
Appendages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My alien digits.
And
So, before we get too far into this discussion and start actually talking about mechanical things, I feel like we need to take a second and talk about the joy of playing this for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Because this scenario remains really cool on replays. I thought initially that I wouldn't really care after the first time, but I do. But that first time you play it, and it's like in card mechanics, you feel like you're in an alien body. And you don't know exactly how it functions and what you need to do, and you're just kind of wandering around these halls, and like it's just such a good distillation of that feel in the mechanics.
yeah.
I had so many Phantom Lib moments of like, you want to use your investigator's ability. Like, I move with Ursula. I'm like, yeah, I get to invest. Oh,
I had to reset my turns multiple times because I was investigating for free after moving, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do that.
Yeah, I too had phantom limb moments. The first time I played this was my Silas Finn campaign, and Silas was doing something for a test, and he failed, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll take my guts back. Oh. Yeah.
How did you
So
feel
anyway,
with 4 willpower on a card?
Tentacle's a thing.
Oh, yeah. And then also the fact that like all your unique items don't exist in the timeline and are just gone.
R.I.P. Kievies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon's oboe is gone as well.
Yep. The oboe's gone.
They're not-
Sad oboe song.
Yeah.
Fading away.
I was lucky enough that my first time through this, the only thing that got taken out was Finn's 38. Everything else was
wow.
non-unique. So you can get lucky.
Is there a weakness that is? Is there a weakness that is a unique item? Yet?
Is the Necronomicon?
Yeah, the Necronomicon is.
Yeah, and the King in Yellow
Jeez.
for Min.
And the King in Yellow.
Oh.
Min's good.
So is Daisy.
Well, I guess I'm playing Daisy again next year.
Yeah.
Daisy Min 2-player campaign through TFA.
Yeah. Become Yithians.
The whole campaign is just wait for City of Archives.
Wait, it
These
doesn't.
snakes are making lunch of me, but you wait till I become a Yithian.
It doesn't
I
have the
died
little
before that.
unique icon before the name though.
Which?
What
The
does
Necronomicon.
What?
I'm looking at it
Really?
right now. Unless the image is wrong.
Is that
looking at Daisy's version?
Yeah.
But the King in Yellow is unique?
I'm checking right now.
Oh, they're not overpowered. Oh, well.
The John D translation.
Uh,
You're right.
damn?
Oh, the King in Yellow has the unique icon, but the Necronomicon doesn't.
Do
Right?
do we think they
So
corrected that in a reprint?
Maybe.
Okay, I guess the team
Or-
is Min Lola.
Yeah, I was. Or it's just that there are multiple John D translations, which would make sense.
Yeah. If you're gonna
And Daisy
publish
has
a book,
more than one.
And Daisy has, Daisy could have a bunch of them in her tote bag. That's why you never play it.
So
Okay.
you need to escape your body, or need to escape back to your body, or so you think. And you start in a smaller part of the map, and you unlock a plethora of locations. And it's kind of, you've got like this central hub, like a triangle of these like brown halls. Are they called? I can't remember the name of them. The
Halls?
the
Natonic halls?
yes. I don't know why I called them brown halls. Anyways, and you can discard a card.
One of them has a brown location icon.
Yeah. You can discard a card to move between them, and they make this like kind of like a little triangle, and then you have these 3 locations off of those, which each have like it's quite a big map.
It is,
and I really like the being able to discard a card because like this scenario changes how you use cards completely.
Yes.
And the ability to basically like every card in your hand can be a shortcut when you're in the middle of the map is pretty cool.
and also just by virtue of the fact that you initially can't play any items, and your ability and stats are your Yithian. Like, I feel like the most important strategy is to be very deliberate and meaningful with your draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that can be a bit rough about the scenarios, because basically you get one good shot at a strong test per turn, because the body of Yithin ability is only once per turn, to double your skill icons. And
It's once per test, Ian.
Yeah, it's one per test.
Is it really? Are you guys serious? I have to look at this now.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, I've been playing this really difficult.
Ian was playing.
Yeah.
Ian was playing our
hard
version of
mode.
Mysterium.
Where
That
is
was a joke for Sean and only Sean.
where's
I
the darn
appreciate
body of Yithian? Oh my god.
Let's just scroll up and chat a little bit.
Oh my god. I have been playing this super hard mode. I thought it was. Oh my god.
RTFC
Wow.
noob.
The fact that I have been successful as much as I have at City of
I was about
Archives
to
is a
say.
freaking miracle. No wonder I was having a hard time with some of my investigators. Damn, I should
Everyone else get on Ian's level.
I should replay. I should replay Calvin and Yola's campaign. A little Yola.
Yola.
Yola,
Well,
you only live always.
Because
Apparently
that was actually not a loss. Then they would have had more shots at that. Wow.
Oh,
Now-
jeez.
now, Ian, I think your point is still very much worth making, though, and it's probably
Yes.
why, at your handicap, you still had a decent amount of success. And that, I think where you were going is that you just have to be very deliberate about your tests. Sometimes you have to sit and
Yes.
find some icons for a test, and just kind of, you don't go for it until you can get to, 3 up or wherever your comfort number is.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going.
But now the next time you play it, oh, I'm so excited for you.
I know this whole everything has opened up. Like that was one of the few bad things I could say about the scenario, and now, wow.
Also, I think, and this is probably wrong, but if it bleeds, could possibly work if a fellow investigator dies, because the Yithians are monsters. I gotta look up if it
We have
bleeds.
to.
real
Is it
quick.
if
I'm almost positive that says monster enemy, but that would be
I hope
awesome.
it doesn't say
Oh,
enemy.
yeah.
You're right, it does say
Yeah.
enemy. Damn it! It should just say when a monster is defeated. Oh, and it says when you defeat a monster. So yeah, that wouldn't work at all. Never mind.
So, this scenario kind of feels like Unspeakable Oath, where you have to start doing these tasks, and you're not sure what the tasks do. But I think the big change about the the more you do, the better body restoration will go. Like you're trying to get out of this place. But the interesting thing about this is that as you complete the task, they actually have in-game effects. Whereas an Unspeakable Oath, okay, you start a fight in the courtyard, cool. Yeah, you do something in the kitchen, whatever. Like this one is like, oh, if you've stolen the organ, now this guy's pissed. And
Yeah.
so, for me, now that I've played it a few times, the strategy is kind of get everything set up and spread everyone out on the map as you can, and then within one turn, complete 3 or 4 things, and then just run for the last one or two.
Go!
They're all pissed. Let's get out of here.
That's why it's actually possible to go too fast on this scenario, because the first agenda is what stops you from putting out items. And if you advance too fast while that's still in effect without having like any weapons out, and you start triggering those effects that cause, because basically the main thing they do is they cause those certain enemies to lose aloof, then all of a sudden you're having to deal with these enemies with no weapons out. So I think this is a scenario where there is a definite strategy about like the order you do these locations and when exactly you start doing them, to start getting these tasks complete.
It's almost like you have to walk around for a while pretending to be a Yithian.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to blend in. Like, that's so cool that it forces you to slow down and really take in what the scenario's asking of you before you go, okay, just start checking off all these boxes.
The first time I played this, I want to know if you guys did the same thing. As soon as I saw one of these tasks, it's like, oh, you got to complete these tasks. I was like, oh, it's like an unspeakable oath. And I just started completing them as quickly as I could.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I'm like,
100%.
oh, fuck. Like, oh, this is going to go
What have I
poorly.
done?
Yeah. And now it's like, okay, let's pump the brakes here. Let's get some clues.
I just love that once that agenda advances and you can put out items, all of a sudden my Yithian body was wielding a bow somehow. Just lighting up other Yithians with an arrow.
I want to call a special notice to the Custodian, because this is a card that fascinates me a little bit. So first of all, mechanically, very solid. It helps you keep your hand more full if you can stick around its location. Story-wise, though, I really like the potential implications of the Curious Yithian, the Custodian. Like, do we think he's an actual Yithian, or is he another captive mind in a Yithian body? Is this like Alejandro, like double backflip helping us, and he's like a quadruple agent?
I guess in my headcanon it was Alejandro.
I think that's
Is it
mentioned in one of the
that it's
resolutions, isn't it? Or am I making that up? Because there's one where you rescue Alejandro. We're skipping into the resolutions a bit, but you guys discuss. I'm looking.
Well,
No,
I don't have my campaign
if you look at
Now I'm like, oh god, did I miss this completely?
if you look at the art, it's totally him, right, Sean?
Yeah, he's wearing the same overalls.
He's got eyes, right?
Yeah. He has at least 2 eyes.
His card is neutral colored.
Oh, yeah!
I kind of read it as it was another human that at some point had gotten taken. And it was just like another human being. Because I assume the Yithians take all these different creatures from across the universe. And
They do.
Yeah, this was just a human being. Not necessarily Alejandro.
Okay.
I'm still looking.
Well, I think general headcanon, if you want to call it Alejandro, no one's going to call foul on it.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and I know that Ian is looking it up right now, but Casey brings up a good point in our chat. You need to control the Custodian in order to rescue Alejandro at the end of the scenario.
yeah.
So that would imply that this is Alejandro.
Because I also
makes
remember something about, I should just find it, but I feel like there's something mentioned about the Custodian seems like off or familiar to you somehow. Where is that?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Well, regardless of whether we're just missing the complete confirmation of this, the Custodian is just not quite like the other Yithians, and for that I love him. Or her. It. They. Shlee. We got there.
I got somewhere.
So Scott, I know you mentioned kind of being deliberate. Do you have a specific path you take, or do you just kind of go where you think you can do something?
I go where I think I can do something, but I try to. So if you like, I look at the enemies: the Keeper, the Great Library, and the Scientist. If you're going to complete one of those activities, complete them both. Like, don't do one from each, right? Like, don't find the process and activate the device, because then you did 2 things but got 2 guys angry at you. You do those 2 things in pairs, essentially. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, it's just wherever stuff pops up and what seems the best at the time. Like, I haven't really gamed this one hard yet. I've just been enjoying playing it. It's my favorite scenario in the game by far.
And that's awesome and funny to me that you're like our resident power gamer, and your favorite scenario is the one you don't have to power game that you just enjoy.
Well, I think it's because I'm not sure you can power game this one.
I was just gonna say, how do you do it?
I don't think it's possible. I think
it just makes you look at your skill icons a little bit harder when you're going into this campaign, and I think that's about as far as you can go.
Yep.
And I mean, just the order in which you do things, like, it changes because you can't control for everything the encounter deck's going to do. And, yeah.
It's such an interesting scenario. I think for me, Threads of Fate is still a little bit above, but City of Archives is definitely number 2 for this campaign. But it basically, like, flattens all the investigators out, that all of a sudden everyone, no matter who you control, has the same will, the same everything. And some investigators, because of how they run, are going to have an advantage. Like if you're Min or Silas already, you probably already have a lot of skill icons in your deck, so you have an advantage. But I don't think you necessarily, like... I at least I can't imagine, like, planning in advance and saying, well, City of Archives relies on skill icons, so I'm totally going to change how I would have built this deck otherwise.
Yeah. I don't think I would hamper my strategy in early scenarios just to make sure I include more neutral skills or whatever.
I think playing through TFA, not that I'm unlikely to take these cards, but I'm much more likely to take the permanent skill boosters, like Higher Ed, Keen Eye.
The one that we already always take, Higher Ed.
Yeah. No, but I mean
but I agree.
The other ones that I might not take as much.
Yep, Scrapper and Keen Eye.
Yeah, because that starts in play, and when you're a 2/2/2/2,
you need that.
And I gotta throw a shout out to Josh in the chat. Lola standalone power games this for once. Yeah.
Oh, Lola.
Any other encounter cards you guys think are sweet?
There's one that's really interesting.
I really liked it's the pink one, Captive Mind.
Yeah.
Yes, Captive Mind's really cool.
Yeah, so Revelation test willpower 0. Regardless of whether the skill test succeeds or fails, choose and discard all but X cards from your hand, and X is your modified skill value. I think in a vacuum, that's a cool treachery, but in the context of this scenario, it's awesome, because it's just your mind reeling from the experience, and it's limiting your options, and and what's funny about it is that normally I'd be like, all right, fine. I run high willpower characters, so I'm not worried about this. Oh, wait! My goddamn Yithian.
Yeah, I've lost my whole hand a few times from that. Yeah.
I think my favorite two... I have two favorite treacheries in this, and one is for theme, and one is for mechanic. And for me, Cruel Interrogations is mechanically my favorite, where it's put Cruel Interrogations into play in your threat area. If any investigator has interviewed a subject, take one horror and it gains Surge. And just the fact that, doing one of those actions you have to do, it makes a treachery worse, not just an enemy. I think the mechanic is super cool. But Lost Humanity is like
that was the one I was thinking of.
A theme home run. Like, you are losing your humanity. You're discarding the top cards of your deck and removing them from the game. And when there's 10 or less cards in your possession, you're driven insane, and the scenario, your campaign ends.
Yeah.
Like, you lose your humanity.
It's really nice when it removes your weaknesses, though, which is
yes,
yes, it is. Like, thank you. But I didn't need that part of my personality.
But that's one of the things that elevates this scenario for me too. Is like with that example of Lost Humanity and Captive Mind, is that it's attacking you, but not necessarily in the same way that a lot of scenarios do, which is just like pile a lot of damage and horror on you, or a bunch of doom. But this is like doing something different and attacking your hand, attacking your deck, and doing what it just makes it feel like the Yithians are a different like beast that you're taking on.
It's attacking your mind, Ian.
And all three of those encounter cards are awesome. I love the theme. I love everything. But Yithian Presence can go fuck itself.
Yeah, not a giant fan of that one.
Like, I get, like, it's well designed. I just don't like that's one when I draw it. I'm like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like I got to discard. I got to spend an action and discard 2 cards to get rid of this thing.
At least it's a terror, so logical reasoning's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, but
So then you gotta spend an action and 2 resources, and in the click economy, you actually end up at a deficit.
And then if you're running a deck that's built to evade enemies and not defeat them, then you're gonna have a board full of Yithians at one point, and then every location and they're all gonna be hunting you like they were in my Ursula game. So it's like every location you go to, you just have to stick with this card. You can't get rid of it. It's
I just feel like logical reasoning should be in everyone's deck for this entire campaign, but
You're right.
Yes,
agreed.
I agree.
Yeah.
so especially for
The condition for actually winning is, or like getting out of there, which is filling up your hand to 10, in conjunction with like the progressive agendas, like keep lowering your hand size, is what really makes the end of the scenario like tense. Because otherwise, you can kind of make your way through and just get out. But then a lot of times I've had some hairy endings where like I've gotten the tasks I need complete, but then you just keep getting saddled with some of these treacheries and a bunch of enemies around, and finding the space to draw up to get your hand full can, if the encounter cards fall wrong, it can be pretty rough.
Casey in chat brings up, how do we feel about the pendant? Since this is the only part, at least so far, where the pendant is useful.
Remind me exactly what it
yeah,
does.
I don't know.
because I've never taken a pendant.
That's what I'm looking up. I only had one campaign that had it, Father Mateo, because I was like, he seems like a pendant guy. and I should have one campaign that uses it, but I don't remember offhand.
Oh, yep. Casey's saying it removes the hand size restriction from all sources.
Oh,
Right.
That is pretty nice.
That's pretty big.
Yeah,
But it only does it for that investigator, right? It doesn't do it for the whole team.
correct.
So
And it's
I think that's.
So Iron Man, everyone takes a pendant.
I don't know. Like that's the thing is like it's really. Oh, it is each investigator, so just one person needs to. So yeah, definitely
Where
Iron
is
Man.
this
One of us
listed?
takes.
Is this in the campaign guide, or is this in the scenario?
it's on an agenda, I believe, or act.
Oh.
Yeah, it's on the back of agenda too. Each investigator with a pendant draws 2
There we
cards, and for the remainder, no, it's each investigator with a pendant ignores any effect that would reduce their maximum
Yep.
hand size. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay,
That's awesome.
I dig. I mean, for a scenario that is basically Oath, where if it goes wrong, you're you're not
It
done,
snowballs.
but you're compromised. Like one little supply point, it's okay. So sorry. Building on what you were saying earlier, Ian, I really liked the way that you finished the scenario by getting your hand up to, was it 10?
yeah,
Because you feel like when you're trying to draw up, like you're positioning yourself, and then normally how it works is like I get myself in position, and then one turn I'm like draw.
Yes.
It really feels like you're powering up these machines as fast as you can to just get the hell out. And yeah, I was a fan.
And I like the thematic implications too of like the memories are rushing back to you of like, wait, no, I was this person, I had this, and this person was my friend. Don't you remember your friend? Like, oh.
Yes, it's wonderful, just stem to stern. So let's talk about resolutions then, because this is where the real fun is. So if you get no resolution, like
You did.
they put you back in your body and they've expunged your memories and you're driven insane
Yeah. And you lose the campaign.
and you lose the campaign.
that was Lola and Kelvin's fate. Although I am now going to be replaying that, so maybe not.
As you should.
And not only do you lose, but I think in the show notes it says here you're placed like 12 years in the future.
Yeah, it's like 1934
Or like
or something.
1934, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Casey mentioned it here. Prohibition's done, so that's a plus.
Yay!
So did you really lose the campaign?
That's what it was all about to begin with.
You lost the campaign, but America won.
He who anticipates booze. Keyforge. Yeah. That's an awesome ending.
I like that. Yeah, I think it might be one of the endings where your investigators would never be the wiser because your memory is just gone. So as far as you knew, you just were in an asylum this whole time.
So resolution 1, you check the number of tasks you completed, and if you complete 6, you record that the process was perfected. Each investigator earns 4 bonus experience, and you're good.
Hashtag Iron Man goals.
Yep. If 5 tasks, everything's good, but you only get 2 experience. 4 tasks, you get 1 experience. 3 tasks, you get 0 experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Zero bonus.
0 bonus. Yeah. And then you go to this token draw thing.
Interlude 4 might be my favorite interlude ever.
Yeah.
Oh.
Put your fate in the hand of the bag.
Says the guy who came out of it fine.
Yeah. So if the process backfired, each investigator reveals a random token. If the process backfired spectacularly, each investigator reveals 2 tokens instead of 1, choosing the token that is lower on this list to resolve. So the crappier one. Ignore them all. So you can pull the Elder Sign or +1, and there's nothing bad that happens. You can pull a skull or any number other than +1. Gains the out-of-body experience weakness and must add it to their deck. And anyone who grabs one of the bad stuff tokens, besides the skull, must use the body of the Yithian until the end of the campaign.
For the rest of the campaign.
And you also get
That's a rough go.
And you also get the out-of-body experience as well.
Yeah, because, the Yithian wasn't bad enough.
That is...
God, I forgot about Out of Body. I haven't picked that up yet. Shuffle each card from your hand to your deck and draw an equal number of cards. And then you shuffle Out of Body back in.
Yep. And it goes right back in. It's not fun, Sean. It's not fun.
I mean...
Pulled it in depths a couple times.
Maybe?
This is going to draw you into other weaknesses every time.
I was saying, yeah, exactly. And to be fair, having this as a Yithian actually isn't that bad, because it's maybe I'll get some better skill icons. Oh.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, Doomed. Oh, Shen brings up Doomed triggering off of this thing.
Well, I'm sorry. If you pulled Accursed Fate as your basic weakness and you made it to City of Archives, that's a medal right there.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't run Doomed. I take it out of my pool every time because I'm too scared. But does it come up that often? That by scenario 6, you're already on Accursed Fate?
Depends on Investigator, I think, and...
Sure.
Luck.
And luck.
Yeah.
And that,
All right, so... Yeah. Huge plus to that ending. I think that's so freaking funny, and I'm going to love Iron Man next year. Walking around, this one's probably going to be supper time.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to going and getting a beer after we wrap and walking around and seeing who is stuck as a Yithian for the rest of the campaign. Because it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's gonna.
I think we need to make T-shirts. I went to the City of Archives and all I got was a new body or something like that.
Yeah, and all I got was this alien body.
All I got was a Yithian.
Yeah.
And then the more I read the second piece here, in case he posted it in the chat earlier, the custodian is totally Alejandro.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
Just loop right.
I mean, look at it. He has eyes, right? So it must be the same.
Yeah, because you can essentially either Alejandro's lost to you forever, like he's set against you forever, or you can actually rescue him and get him back into his body.
And then you got a bunch of other interlude stuff. If you have chalk,
that's regular supply chain.
Yeah. Supply bullshit, I think is the.
Yep. Yeah. It's just the end of scenario. How can we fuck you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys are positive on supplies then, is what I'm hearing.
I'm softening to them a lot. I think they are
knowing what they do. Yeah.
They are unbelievably unforgiving for a blind playthrough.
Yes,
and I found that a
absolutely.
negative experience. Now that I'm done blind playthroughs, I like them a lot more because I think they
Because now you know.
you know, and then you can actually, because you can't take everything you need, and so it forces you to say, like, you know what, maybe I just don't take a blanket because it's worth 3 supply, right? And it's only 2 trauma as far as we know over the course of the campaign at this point. So that's, if you're okay taking 2 trauma for 3 other points of supplies that might help you evade or get rid of a bunch of other trauma.
That's
You know?
that's I think ultimately the tough part of the supplies mechanic is that to get an actual game out of it, you have to prioritize and know. But the first time, or just first several times you play through, probably, unless you're waiting for the whole thing to be out,
Yeah.
you just can't know.
Yeah.
So that's why you have that common experience where you're running through the first few scenarios and you're like, all right, well, I guess I didn't take the right things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In a world where we got all the scenarios at the same time,
I know.
Oh, sorry.
it would be actually okay.
Blanket is 2 supply. I apologize. But yeah, either way.
I think what's going to be
5 people just stopped angrily typing at their computers.
I think what's going to be interesting is planning for Iron Man, because you only get 4 supply points each. And so I think that's the only aspect. In general, I think I'm more positive about supplies than a lot of people, but the one part I don't like is probably specifically the blanket, that each person has to have one in order to avoid the trauma, and it costs 2. So basically in 4-player, that's 2 out of your 4
It's a
supply
goddamn
points
blanket.
is to the blanket.
Yes.
And then if you want to take provisions to avoid starving,
Or medicine.
then that's it. You can't take anything else. So I feel like, especially the higher player counts, you get hosed a little bit.
Like, where's the spooning supply, right?
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah.
isn't the most effective way to survive with a blanket to share body heat?
Yeah, just 4 player, you all spoon on the floor, 1 blanket. It's all good. That's what I'm looking forward to for Iron Man.
Hashtag Iron Man goals.
So
I mean, we can just do that.
So we're LARPing the campaign, right?
Shen, and one of you's a Yithian curling under the blanket.
Hey, he's got 3 arms. Perfect. Oh, God. I think...
Is that a cone in your blanket, or are you just happy to see me?
Yes.
The Yithian is both big and little spoon at the same time.
It is all spoon. Omni spoon. I think one thing about the, like, just slightly diverging here, Iron Man supply stuff, honestly, I think blanket is so overcosted in a 4-player game. Like, in a 2-player game, sure.
Yes.
I mean, in 4-player, you get the most amount of points. You get 16 points, right? And solo, you get 10. Yeah, anyways, it scales. Like, I think everyone, or most people, you just tank the blanket.
And the blanket prevents what? 2
trauma
Two.
over the
One-
over the campaign.
But okay, 2 physical trauma. over
No,
the
no,
course of the
2
game.
any
Or
trauma.
you get to choose.
You choose. Which is even
Oh.
softer, like a blanket.
Yes.
How cool is it? I'm jumping ahead to Shattered Aeons, but how cool is it that kerosene counteracts blanket? Like not having a blanket.
Yeah.
You just light a fire using the corpse of the enemy you just killed.
Or maybe you burned your blanket.
Or you burned your blanket. Yeah.
Shit, guys, it burned
Or
down
that.
the tent. Yeah. So I think there's just, when you're playing 4-player,
yeah, I think you
just,
go naked.
yeah, you just have to say, you know what, I'm just tanking and not taking it, and that sucks. But
So does that mean, looking at the list that Casey just posted, does that mean that the investigator who's taking the pendant for our Iron Man will also take the map and just say fuck it?
Probably.
I'll get back to you in a couple weeks because I am gonna map this.
Scott will tell us what we're all respectively taking.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
I
Wait for your assignments.
We'll be informed.
I will.
Someone needs to bring a thermos to make up for us all being naked. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
You really only get 3 supply points each? Oh, that's
No,
on the
4.
resupply.
The resupply.
Still.
For the resupply, yeah.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, basically you're gonna grab like gasoline. You don't grab blanket on the second wave. That's just dumb.
No,
No.
you do not.
If you didn't take it the first time, ignore it the second time.
And it's not the same either. Like, there's certain things you can't take from the first one. Like, you can't take a map.
The pendant is just the first time. The map is just the first
compass
time.
Chalk?
Torches.
Oh, no, wait.
Chalk's
Compass
there.
you can take a second time.
Torches is only the first time.
Yeah.
We should save this for our Iron Man prep episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a year.
So, yeah.
Sorry, 10 months.
Yeah, so any final thoughts on City of Archives?
My favorite scenario.
Great scenario.
There you go.
My
Yeah.
number one scenario. There's
Overall.
like if you gun to my head, you can play one scenario for the rest of your life. This one.
You wouldn't want one with a little more variance? Like threads?
Or maybe one that actually lets you use the investigator for which you built the deck.
It's so good because I get to play as nobody.
But solo Lola, guys. You like
Sola.
standalone
Sola and
Lola.
Yola.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that stops it for being higher for me is just that I don't get to use my investigator ability. But it's still, that all being said, it's still up there.
It's part of the selling point.
It's definitely in the top
Yeah.
5 or whatever.
I think this one fits better in the campaign than it does standalone, simply
Yes.
because of that reason, like because of the whole no investigator. But yeah, super, like it's definitely in my top 3.
This has become what gets me through Boundary Beyond and Heart. Because I know on the light in the end of that particular tunnel is City of Archives.
Well, and the next one too, The Depths of Yacht.
Yeah.
And hopefully Shattered Aeons.
And
I'm hoping Shattered Aeons is fun, but
it's
God,
good.
Depths of Yacht is probably the high point for me. I loved that one.
Watch, Shattered Aeons is just an encounter deck full of cards that check your supplies.
Shatter this Aeon.
It just sends you back to Boundary Beyond to play it again.
Erase your supplies, go back to Boundary Beyond.
You know, I did see, as I was sleeving that scenario, I kind of turned a blind eye to most of the encounter cards, but I did see something that made me go, "Oh God, what are we doing? Why does this exist?" But we're not spoiling.
I'm
that
so
yet, I won't
curious to hear
say
your
what
guys'
that is.
thoughts.
Oh boy.
I'm excited. I haven't played it yet, but I saw what you're talking about, Sean, and then I immediately read the campaign guide, and then I cursed Matt's name to the heavens.
Oh, good
and I will
Christ.
I will get into that like when we actually talk about this scenario, because this upcoming scenario particularly stings a little bit to me, and I know to Casey as well, and probably to a couple other people. But again, I'll get into that next time we talk.
Oh, I need to get this campaign caught up.
I'm very positive about the scenario, maybe with the exception of one thing, but overall, I really like it.
All right. So let's move it into a little bit of high and tight tentacle time because we are running a little long on today's
A
episode.
little bit.
Scott, what's been grabbing thee of late?
Well, this other couple we usually board game with, we finished our Pandemic 2 campaign, and so we were looking for other games to play, and brought out an old favorite of mine, Stronghold, aka Helm's Deep, the board game. If you haven't played that game and you like Helm's Deep, it is literally Helm's Deep. And it's asymmetrical. One guy's in the castle, the other people are orcs and goblins and trolls and stuff, and you're trying to break into the castle. It's super fun. And then got into Keyforge, bought some decks. I didn't get any offensive ones, so I'm just gonna have to go buy more decks. And there's a new Muse album out, and there's
You stole my tentacle.
oh sorry,
It's fine.
okay,
It's great.
yes. What's the song that was with the marching band?
Pressure.
Pressure
Pressure.
with the UCLA marching band. Everyone needs to listen to that song. I had it on repeat for like 50 times. It was fantastic.
It's so fucking good.
Oh.
God. I could go music nerd on Muse for a minute, but the short version is they
Please
do
don't.
lots of really just cool things from a technical standpoint, and well, Pressure's kind of more simple from that respect, but their call response chorus with that one is just so well done.
Oh.
That song is an earworm and a half.
Yeah.
I think it's especially interesting because you guys were talking about it, and then you all said, well, Absolution is their best album. and I thought, I've never really given Muse a fair shake. I'll listen to Absolution. And it nearly put me to sleep at work. Like, I'm like, this album is not doing it for me. Like, the music was good, but the vocals were just... It's also just, like, he holds every note, and, like, it felt like he was going slower than the music behind him, and it just did something. But then you guys kept talking about this new album, so I'm like, well, fine, I'll listen to this. So I listened to one song, I'm like, that's really good. I listened to another song, I'm like, damn it, that's really good, too. I listened to a third song, I'm like, I guess I'm getting this album now.
Yeah, this album is...
I've been listening to it, I really like it.
It's tight.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I love it.
I posted the pressure with the youth delay in chat, so everyone needs to listen to that.
Well, I'll be doing that in a moment.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Because now it's playing in my head. So running back to Keyforge real quick, have you played much of it yet, Scott?
I actually haven't played because I ran to the store yesterday to grab a core set and 2 other decks, and I had to work last night. So I haven't slept in like almost 24 hours now. So I haven't played yet. But I think...
I'll be interested to see what you think of the game.
I've watched a lot of videos of it, and I've like looked at the cards, and I think I'm going to really enjoy it. I think it's a great tactical decision-making game.
Yeah.
And I actually, oddly enough, enjoy the lack of strategy. And it's just all tactical. Like it's
well, you get to just relax those muscles, right?
Yeah.
Because in other games, like, you kind of like I could net deck if I really, but the pride in me wants me to figure out my own shit, and there's that whole struggle. Like here, it's like, hey, I have this deck.
Yeah, it reminds me,
and I will play it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
It reminds me of the Star Wars LCG, where you're just drawing so many cards. Like your hand is rapidly changing. Unlike a lot of other card games where you play a couple cards, you're saving this card for next turn. Whereas in Star Wars and Keyforge, it just seems like you're just like play as many cards as you can, as best as you can, in the moment, and then regroup each turn. And I really like that.
It's a constant shifting state of hand management that makes it really interesting.
Yeah.
But the real game of Keyforge,
yes,
the real game is spending $10 to see if you get a funny deck name.
The robot that doesn't believe in horses.
I just found that one right now.
My God.
Did you see the pilot that jabbers at heteronormativity?
Yes. Oh God, it's the best part about the game.
It really is.
It is the best part about the game.
Implicate the antagonizer of boys.
And then you get just ones like this that are just like, okay, I guess.
Elder L
Digifinder. Like, again, why is there a middle initial? Why does it have a middle initial?
I think it's funny that when there was an announcement that came out, like FFG put out an article, hey, so the algorithm may have made some like really bad offensive things, so we'll just like if you give us that deck back, we'll give you 2 decks. And there was some talk like, oh man, this is a really bad PR thing. And then these things started showing up, and like the first one was Titan Flayer, the farmer of racism, and people were like, ooh, like this is kind of like, and people are iffy. And then all the other ones came out, like just tons of offensive quotation marks, depending on who you are
or funny
and how you see things,
some.
Or just like you're realizing that it wasn't intently racist.
It's not malicious.
It was an algorithm that just fucked up, and then it becomes hilarious. Like it's just
computer word salad.
The best PR move ever was accidentally done. So
I think we should name all of our episodes from now on. Just like we should just build an AI that just grabs words we've said and just randomly jobs them together. Just like Quiche, Manatee, Rowboat. Dude.
Our Boundary Beyond review episode would just be fuck. It's like 20% of the episode.
No, it'd be like fuck. Sorry.
So one thing I will say about Keyforge is that it's pretty accessible as far as card games go. I played a game with my 11-year-old last night, and she figured out a little recursion combo, and I was so fucking proud.
Nice.
And she actually really enjoyed the game because it's not as a lot of the FFG LCGs, the competitive ones, are like, hey, I'm gonna fuck with you. Like Thrones is like, hey, your guy's dead now, and similar effects. Whereas this one, you do interact and you do still try to take out problems on your opponent's board, but that's not the center of the game. If you're only fighting, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Which I think it makes it softer and, again, more accessible, where you're not just going to go pound down this newbie the first time you play, because that's just not how you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's an engine builder first,
Yeah.
and once you realize that, it makes it a little bit. It makes it. You kind of see different ways that you can play it, and that it's not like, all right, I got to destroy him.
Yeah.
It's instead, how can I get the best efficiency?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyway, I'm very excited that it's out and I can actually play it now.
Yeah, the hype train was way too long.
Yes, and I know that they can only control that so much, but God, I was so sick of preview articles for this friggin' game that I knew I wanted to buy already. It's just like, let me get my hands on it.
Shut up and take my money.
Yes. The loneliness who trivializes hate.
Oh God, there was one on Reddit. The sadness that only affects children or something. And I was just like, wow. Or no, it was the depression that only gets to children. It was something like morbid and dark. I was like, oh God.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love the fan here. Unequivocally famous Jane.
Yes.
The one that totally prefers aliens.
Quo the notably bogus. He's not just bogus, so guys. He's notably bogus.
There's the girl that headbutts sharks. And the boy that headbutts heaven.
Yes.
The boy who headbutts heaven, yeah.
Nick, surely you have a tentacle.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I wrote down a few different things, but the one that I'll talk about is this last game weekend that Sean referenced during the last episode, which I was gone for. I was absent for that episode. We did a D&D 5th edition 34-hour marathon. Now, that wasn't 34 hours straight, but we played a total of 34 hours throughout the whole campaign.
Okay.
I know, right? So we played until... we made characters which took like 2.5 hours because they were really just mulling over their options, and one of the players had a really hard time deciding between a couple different classes. And then we played, and the second encounter was a total party kill. And so they remade characters. So to preface this was a preparation game for my upcoming West Marches campaign that I've talked about on previous episodes, and this marathon was to kind of like test this idea out, if it would be engaging to players, if the whole like players updating the map and exploring the world on their own and kind of taking the direction of the campaign in their own hands, if that would be something that would fly for both me as how I DM and also the players that I tend to play with. And it was like the whole, like they got a total party kill on their second encounter, but they were super stoked to keep going and to recover the items that they lost and to go further into the dungeon that they had started. And then the only time that we hit a little bit of a hiccup was later on when everybody died except for one PC. So then we had one PC who was a level and a half above, all the other characters that would come in. But luckily, the way experience is in Dungeons & Dragons, those new characters caught up pretty quick. It was a lot of fun. I really love it. This is my first time playing and running D&D 5th edition, and it is super easy to run. It's really streamlined. It has a lot of great options in the player's handbook. So we're really close to actually opening up this campaign to the player base at large, and I'm really excited for once we do that. And that's me. That's all that I will discuss.
Excellent. I think that leaves us with Ian.
I'm going to save Red Dead for another time because it deserves more time than I can give right now. It deserves it. So the two things that have been come up recently is The Haunting of Hill House, Netflix original show. So I binged through the whole thing. It's funny the things you remember from school, but the original Shirley Jackson book is like a book report that I actually remember from 7th grade that I did. Like people were all doing all these like different stories, and I picked some weird haunted house story. But this new Netflix show isn't really based on it. I mean, some character names are the same in Hill House, of course, but it's doing its own thing, and it is really, really, really good. I binged through the whole thing. I'm generally, like, even though we do a whole podcast about a Arkham Horror and a horror game, I'm not, like, a huge horror guy, actually. Like, I'm way more, like, fantasy and sci-fi. Like, I like it fine. It's just not something I seek out and, like, have a craving for like I do other genres. But this was an exception. I just like everything that they did with it, and the different themes they explore. I won't say too much about it until any of you guys get a chance to watch it as well. But definitely recommended for me, even if you think you're a person who's not like big on horror usually. It is a bit intense though, so if like it deals with some like real issues, so if you're not in a good headspace, then maybe I wouldn't suggest watching it. I guess that'll be my disclaimer, because that is a thing.
It's definitely on my short list of things to watch, but because it's horror adjacent, or it's labeled horror, my wife really doesn't want to watch it, so I have to wait for times that it's just me at home and not her, and those aren't, as frequent as you'd think. So
we should co-watch it.
I do really
Nick.
want to get into it. Yeah, totally. Totally. We should just have a Discord voice chat going while we're watching it.
I'm super into this.
I'll probably
idea.
watch it again at some point.
Too. Shit. All right. Well, all four of us, the next time we want to sit down to record,
well, let's just announce it on the Discord. See how big a party we can throw.
Oh shit! I love it.
And the other thing, briefly, is just in addition to Red Dead, I've also been squeezing in playing the Call of Cthulhu video game that came out recently, and I'm about 3 or 4 hours in digging that as well. It's definitely kind of not your typical like big budget production you'd expect nowadays. Like the graphics are a little bit rougher than you might expect from the PS4 era. But in terms of story, I'm not done yet, and I've heard mixed reviews, but it's my experience so far has been, I think it's done a good job of really capturing that Lovecraftian Mythos Cthulhu feel. And so that's kind of all I was really looking from it. Really, like I can get the other like polished stuff from other games that I play, but there's not a ton of options in that regard. So yeah,
I've heard that it embodies the term Eurojank in all of the positives and negatives. So
I'm old. What does that mean?
Eurojank, it's like European video game development, and how it's like close to Western development, but it's just different enough to be a little weird in points.
Sure.
Like Ian said, the graphics and the polish aren't usually up to the same snuff. But then there's also just like sometimes you'll run into translation or verbiage issues and stuff like that.
So Heavy Rain is Eurojank.
Heavy Rain is Quantic Dream, which is a conversation in and of itself.
That's
that
true.
I would love to have on a not 3 hour long episode.
All right. That it for you, Ian?
yep, that's
I
it
didn't
for
want to cut you
now.
off. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this very special episode of Mythos Busters. As always, check us out on our social media. As mentioned, if you want a shot at those burger tokens, or you felt like, hey, it's just time, I want to throw in on the Mythos Busters Patreon, please do so at patreon.com/MythosBusters podcast? Or is it just Mythos Busters?
No, just Mythos Busters.
Okay. And as always, if you have a quement, feel free to call in to our hotline. That's 203-493-6984, 203-493-MYTH. And, oh boy, what else? Expect an influx of AV Club pretty soon, I think. Right, Scott?
Yes, very soon. Like,
excellent.
Within a week or two. Yeah.
I'm so excited to hop back on that train.
Yeah, buddy. I can't...
Did anyone mess with my seat? I had the settings where I wanted them. Like when
I tried out the seat, and I farted about 6 times on it, but I didn't touch anything.
I fully reclined it.
Oh, God.
You are the worst.
Ian took off a wheel.
All right, so expect AV Club, and of course, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Mythos Busters. Bye.
Bye.